Chapter 1959. Hearing this, Yu Yaorao hurriedly took out her musical note and sent out a message. After a while, she put away the musical note, looked at Lu Yi, shook her head, and said, "I can't contact any of them." The people she tried to contact were all local cultivators who were training in the Azura field. Since she couldn't contact them, there was only one explanation: they were too far away, beyond the range of the musical note. This result made Lu Ye's heart sink. The range of the musical note was actually very large, but now Yu Yaorao couldn't even contact a 9 profound cultivator. It was obvious that the situation was worse than he thought. Lu Yi thought for a while, then closed his eyes and focused. He used the 7-colored lotus in his divine sea to try to contact the ancestral land of the soul race. The passages of the ancestral land of the soul race were everywhere in the starry sky. So, even if he didn't know where he was now, as long as he could communicate with the ancestral land of the soul race, he could directly enter the ancestral land and go to the place he knew. But to his surprise, there was no response this time. This surprised Lu Yi greatly. This undoubtedly meant that there was no passage to the ancestral land of the soul race in the nearby galaxies. This was troublesome. After thinking for a while, Lu Yi said, "Come with me." Yu Yaorao hurriedly followed. After the two figures rushed out of the bounded domain, Lu Yi took out his star boat and stood on it to observe the current situation. The most important thing now was to figure out where he was. Only by figuring out this point could he know which direction to go. Suddenly, a stream of light entered his field of vision, passing by in the distance. It was undoubtedly the figure of a cultivator, and judging from the fluctuations of power coming from the distance, it was Yu Yao. Lu Yi was delighted. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to meet her. Since he met her, he could ask her about the situation. The other party seemed to have noticed his presence, and suddenly changed direction and rushed toward him. After a short while, the light swept not far ahead, and a figure appeared. He cupped his fists at Lu Yi and said, "Greetings, Taoist brother." Lu Yi returned the greeting and sized up the newcomer. Yu Yao's cultivation was at the middle stage, and she looked to be about 30 years old. She was dressed in black, and she had a capable temperament. Her voice was quite magnetic. "May I ask if brother came out of the Azura field?" the young man asked. "Yes." Lu Yi nodded his head. Since the other party had asked such a question, it was clear that they had also come out from the Azura field like him. Lu Ye's heart calmed down. It seemed like the worst situation had not occurred. He and Yu Yaorao had not been rejected by the Azura field to some desolate place. "Then do you know where this place is?" "If I want to go to the Rainflower Galaxy, which direction should I go?" A helpless expression appeared on Lu Ye's face. I was just about to ask fellow Taoist this question. The two of them looked at each other for a while. The young man couldn't help but sigh. "So Tao brother has the same confusion as me. Then, may I ask Tao brother if you know what happened in the Azura field? Why did we appear here the moment we appeared? This doesn't look like a training ground." Lu Yi muttered, "The Azura field should be closed. Those of us who entered the Azura field for training were all expelled." The young man nodded. "That's about what I thought. No wonder the Shura command is gone." As Yu Yao, she naturally had some guesses about such an unforeseen event, but she didn't have any concrete evidence to prove it. "It's a pity that the Shura seals I painstakingly accumulated." The young man had a regretful expression. He didn't know how many Shura seals he had accumulated, but now that the Azura field had closed, those Shura seals must have gone to waste. He then said, "Tao brother, can you exchange musical notes? That way, if any of us figure out the location of this place, we can inform each other." "Sure." Lu Yi nodded and immediately stepped forward to exchange musical notes with the young man. They didn't ask each other's names and origins. They might not have the chance to meet again in the future. The young man soon left. Lu Yi drove the planetary boat with Yu Yaorao, aimlessly moving in a certain direction. They kept running into some cultivators who were in a hurry. Most of them were alone, and a few of them were in groups of 2 or 3. The Azura field closed too suddenly. Among the nearly 10 million cultivators, only Lu Yi had been informed by Mi Shi in advance. The others weren't prepared at all. As a result, after being expelled from the Azura field, many of them moved alone. If they were lucky, they could contact their family and friends and form a group to take care of them. He also kept communicating with some cultivators to exchange information. Unfortunately, no one knew where this place was. As a result, he could only choose a direction and move straight ahead. From time to time, he would try to communicate with the soul race's ancestral land through the seven-colored divine lotus. Unfortunately, there was no response. Yu Yaorao also sent out a few messages every once in a while, but they were also like stones thrown into the sea. The first few days were peaceful, but as time passed, this vast unknown place became chaotic. Nearly 10 million cultivators left the Azura field. Even if they were scattered, there were still some conflicts. Not to mention, there were many people in this world who wanted to see the world in chaos. There were also some cultivators with evil natures who took this opportunity to commit crimes. Several figures were fighting in front of them. Lu Yi drove the planetary boat and rushed straight ahead, pretending he didn't see them. Those cultivators weren't strong, and they were all at the constellation realm. It was unknown what conflicts they had, but they were fighting in full swing. There were 3 people on each side, and they seemed to be evenly matched. When they were fighting fiercely, they suddenly noticed Lu Yi and Yu Yaorao approaching. They stopped fighting tacitly and retreated far away, leaving a spacious path for them to pass. They were all smart people. Those who dared to ignore them were definitely very strong, and they weren't people they could provoke. When Lu Ye's planetary boat passed by, the 2 sides collided again, and it seemed like they were going to fight to the death. Many cultivators had made great enemies in the Azura grounds. However, the trials in the Azura grounds were too random. Thus, it was very difficult for them to take revenge unless they happened to enter the same training ground as their enemy. In the heavenly Azura world, there was the protection of the Azura field's rules, so no one dared to act rashly. Now that everyone had been expelled from the Azura field, if the 2 sides who had enmity with each other ran into each other, they would naturally take revenge. It could even be said that some people had realized that this was a very good opportunity, and they were looking for their enemies. Moreover, there were many people like this, and if they missed this opportunity, they wouldn't have any hope of finding their enemies again. It wasn't just the constellation realm that was fighting. Lu Yi had also encountered several battles between Yu Yao on his way here. Yu Yaorao felt a lingering fear because if she hadn't gone to look for Lu Yi at that time and stayed by his side, she wouldn't have been able to protect herself in such an environment by herself. It was especially so for a charming and enchanting woman like her, who could arouse men's desire. If they ran into a Yu Yao, they might have captured her. Now that she was by Lu Ye's side, she didn't have to worry about such things, and she was very glad that she had made the decision at that time. One day, Lu Yi, who was driving the planetary boat forward, suddenly sensed something, and he raised his head to look at the starry sky in front of him. Then, he frowned and quickly changed the direction of the planetary boat, flying to the side. "Senior brother, what's wrong?" Yu Yaorao asked in confusion. During this period of time, Lu Yi had always been moving forward in a straight line, and he had never changed his direction. But this time, he had changed his direction for some reason. "There are sunshine fighting in front of us," Lu Yi replied. Yu Yaorao's cultivation was, after all, a bit low, and her perception wasn't as sharp as his, so she didn't realize the seriousness of the matter, but he clearly sensed that there were sunshine powerhouses fighting in the starry sky in front of them. Even if they were far away, the aftermath was like a wave, attacking wave after wave. Although the number of sunshine powerhouses in the Azura field wasn't particularly large, it wasn't small either. Of course, there were some who had formed enmity between them, and when they encountered each other, it was normal for them to attack each other. But for sunshine powerhouses, this kind of fight was very fatal. If they were caught in the aftermath, they wouldn't have a good end. Since he had noticed this, Lu Yi naturally had to change his path. He had thought that he was already careful enough, and as long as he took the initiative to avoid the range of the sunshine powerhouses, he would be safe. But in this world, 9 out of 10 things didn't go as planned. After a while, Lu Ye's complexion suddenly changed, and he turned his head to look to the side. Then he crazily circulated his magic power, and the speed of the star boat suddenly increased. "Senior brother?" Yu Yaorao called out softly. She felt that something was wrong from the change in Lu Ye's expression. Lu Ye didn't have time to reply to her, because he sensed that Sunshine's aura was rapidly approaching him. Did the outcome of the battle have been decided, and one of them had fled? If they could flee, but why did they have to flee in this direction? Lu Ye felt that he was extremely unlucky. If he was alone, he wouldn't be too worried. At the very least, he still had 2 red talismans with him, so protecting himself wouldn't be a problem. But Yu Yaorao was just a constellation, and if she was hit by Sunshine's aftermath, she would die in an instant. Sunshine's speed was extremely fast, and in just 3 breaths, Lu Ye sensed that the powerful aura was a lot closer to him. In his field of vision, he could even see a bright light exploding in the distance. It was too late to dodge. Lu Ye immediately gave up on controlling the star boat and activated the gate of the Little Flower World. In just a few breaths, a gate appeared in front of him. Go in. He instructed Yu Yaorao. If he wanted to save Yu Yaorao's life, he could only let her enter the Little Flower World to hide. Apart from this, Lu Ye couldn't think of any other way. Yu Yaorao didn't ask anything and entered the gate in a flash. In the next instant, the gate disappeared. Lu Ye immediately circulated his magic power and prepared to activate the red talisman that had the effect of teleportation. Of course, he was just preparing it in advance. The red talisman was precious, and unless he absolutely had to use it, he would naturally save it. Right at this moment, a gloomy and cold voice came from afar. Ma Bin, you have a great reputation, but it turns out that you only know how to flee in fear? The voice came from tens of thousands of miles away, but it still reached Lu Ye's ears. Not only him, but all the cultivators in the area heard it clearly. Lu Ye couldn't help but be startled. This chapter ends. Chapter 1960. Previously, in the Azura field, Lu Ye had seen a high bounty from Ma Bin in the bounty hall. The bounty was worth tens of millions of Azura seals. However, he wasn't sure if this Ma Bin was the one he knew. Later, he wanted to ask the Heavenly Azura clan to help investigate, but Ajido didn't have enough authority to investigate. He didn't expect to hear Ma Bin's name at this time. Could it be the former 9 Regions senior? The possibility was still very high. There might be a lot of people named Ma Bin in this world, but how many of them had this name and sunshine cultivation? Lu Ye calmed down and carefully sensed. Unfortunately, the aura of sunshine was too strong, so he couldn't be sure. Ridiculous. Why didn't I see you so arrogant when you were chased by me? Now that you have help, you dare to be arrogant? Changfeng, you'd better pray that you'll never be alone, or I'll take your dog life sooner or later. Another strong voice came, as if responding to the previous words. Hearing this familiar voice, how could Lu Ye not know that this Ma Bin was the former 9 Regions senior he had seen before? He had a rough understanding of this senior's strength. Back then, he fought 1 against 3 on the 10,000 Elephant Sea and killed one of the 10,000 Elephant Sea's sunshine. In the end, he successfully escaped. Since then, the number of sunshine guards on the 10,000 Elephant Sea had increased from 3 to 5. It could be said that he was the one who forced them. However, he didn't know who was chasing him now. Even Ma Bin didn't dare to face them head-on. From this, it seemed that the number of people chasing him was either very high or very strong. This senior was really good at causing trouble. Lu Ye felt helpless. He didn't intend to intervene in the confrontation on the sunshine level, and he couldn't intervene. Moreover, Ma Bin had said that the former 9 regions had nothing to do with the current 9 regions, and he didn't intend to involve the current 9 regions. Back then, he planned to bring Lu Ye to him. After a series of questions, he confirmed that the 9 regions still existed. That was enough. He didn't even think of returning to the 9 regions to take a look. However, Lu Ye didn't want to intervene in this matter, but he couldn't help it. The direction that Ma Bin fled in was exactly where he was. Even though he tried his best to leave, it was simply too late. The powerful and chaotic aura of sunshine was getting closer and closer. Lu Ye sighed. Although he was reluctant, he still had to activate the red talisman to escape. Otherwise, once he was involved in such a battle, he would not be able to protect himself. Just as he was about to do so, he suddenly felt a powerful divine sense sweep over him. Shortly after, the divine sense paused slightly on him. In the next moment, Nikitaras's aura, which was rapidly approaching his area, suddenly stopped. Ma Bin's cold voice sounded, "Since you want to die so much, I'll fulfill your wish." Lu Yi was startled. Turning his head, he saw a dazzling beam of light returning the way it had come. 3 breaths of time later, intense and terrifying shockwaves erupted from that direction, causing the void for hundreds of thousands of li to tremble. Lu Yi didn't even look back as he continued to flee. He ran a good distance before turning back to take a look. He could no longer see the commotion over there. Even the aftershocks were negligible. This undoubtedly meant that he was safe for the time being. He sighed in his heart and prayed that Ma Bin would be fine. Otherwise, he would have harmed Ma Bin this time. This former senior of the 9 prefectures was obviously fleeing, but he suddenly turned back to kill. The fundamental reason was that he had discovered his existence. The cultivators from the 9 prefectures all had the imprint of the divine fate plate on their bodies. Ma Bin had participated in the creation of the divine fate plate. Back then, on the 10,000 Elephant Sea, he had relied on this to discover Lu Yi. This time, it was obviously the same. The reason why he turned back to kill Lu Yi was that he had sensed that Lu Yi was on his escape route. If he continued to flee like this, he would inevitably implicate Lu Yi, a junior of the 9 prefectures. Therefore, he gave up on fleeing and turned back to fight back. The 2 generations of 9 prefectures cultivators didn't have any communication, but at that moment, Ma Bin's divine sense paused to investigate. Lu Yi had seen through Ma Bin's decision. This matter was really troublesome. He had originally planned to use the red talisman to leave this place, but he didn't expect Ma Bin to make such a choice. This made him somewhat worried. However, on second thought, Ma Bin's strength wasn't weak. Since he dared to turn back and fight back, his life definitely wouldn't be in danger. After pondering for a moment, Lu Yi decided not to think too much about it. His strength wasn't enough at the moment, so it was useless to think too much. He flew forward again, opened the door of the small flower world, and let Yu Yaorao out again. "Senior martial brother, are you all right?" Yu Yaorao asked. Lu Yi shook his head slowly. "I'm fine." Yu Yaorao glanced at him curiously. She was keenly aware that Lu Ye's mood wasn't good, but she didn't ask anything. "Is that fellow Taoist Lu Yi?" A voice suddenly entered his ears. Lu Yi was startled. Before the voice came, he didn't notice anything unusual in the surroundings. He quickly looked in the direction of the voice's origin, and saw 2 figures standing on a big meteorite there. Both of them were women, and their figures looked somewhat familiar. After seeing their appearance, Lu Yi couldn't help but be surprised. After thinking for a moment, he urged his magic power and flew over with Yu Yaorao. After landing on the meteorite, he cupped his fists. "Fellow Taoist Walnut, Senior Nan Lian." The 2 women here were surprisingly Nan Lian and her disciple. Lu Yi didn't expect that they would be so fated to meet again here. He was wondering why he didn't notice them before. With Ri Guang here, he only needed to conceal himself casually. With his strength, he naturally couldn't detect anything. If Walnut hadn't taken the initiative to speak, he really wouldn't have known there were people here. When Lu Yi fought for the Moon Jade list, this pair of master and disciple made a lot of money, and Lu Yi also gained a lot. It could be said to be a win-win situation. Later, according to the Azura contract he signed with Lu Yi, Walnut shared half of the benefits with him, and all of them were exchanged for treasures that could improve the quality of his source. Nan Lian, on the other hand, took the initiative to give Lu Yi a Blue Moon Spirit follower. "It really is fellow Taoist Lu." Walnut looked very happy. Nan Lian also nodded at Lu Yi with an amiable expression. "What a coincidence, we meet again." "This is..." Walnut looked at Yu Yaorao, who was following behind Lu Yi, and for a moment, he was somewhat unable to shift his gaze away. Such a charming person was rare, and she was only a star constellation realm cultivator. But now, she was following beside Lu Yi. His expression immediately became ambiguous, and he had an expression of, "I understand." Yu Yaorao's face blushed slightly. Lu Yi didn't take it seriously, and only introduced her casually. While he and Walnut were talking, Nan Lian's eyes shone brightly, and she looked into the distance. Lu Ye's expression changed when he saw this. "Senior, how's the battle over there?" Nan Lian was definitely watching the battle between Ri Guang and Ri Guang. She had Ri Guang's cultivation, and it seemed like she also cultivated some kind of eye technique. The reason she was standing here was probably to watch the battle. It's very intense, Nan Lian replied casually. After that, there was nothing else. Lu Yi felt an itch in his heart. It was rare for him to meet Ri Guang, who was watching the battle. Moreover, he knew Ri Guang, so of course he wanted to know how Ma Bin was doing. However, he couldn't show it, so as to avoid being seen through. Even if he used his toes to think, Lu Yi knew that Ma Bin had many enemies. If Nan Lian also had a grudge against Ma Bin, and he revealed that he was related to Ma Bin, it wouldn't be good for him. At that moment, he started chatting with Walnut. After a long while, Nan Lian finally exclaimed in admiration. As expected of the Azure Demon King Ma Bin, he could even fight his way out of the encirclement. Lu Yi was greatly relieved. Even though he had guessed that Ma Bin's life wasn't in danger, he couldn't watch the battle with his own eyes, so he didn't know how the battle was going. Now that he heard Nan Lian's words, Ma Bin should be fine. He tried his best to put on an innocent and curious expression and said, "Ma Bin? Senior, I saw a bounty for this name in the bounty hall. Could it be?" Nan Lian said, "Who else could it be but Ri Guang Ma Bin of the Azura Arena? Is he very powerful? I think his bounty is very high." "He's more than powerful. It's said that more than 20 Ri Guang have died at his hands alone." Nan Lian looked like she couldn't afford to offend him. "Look at me, I'm also a Ri Guang, but if Ma Bin wants to kill me, it'll be as easy as crushing a little chick." Lu Yi was dumbfounded. "Senior, you're too modest." He had never heard anyone give him such an evaluation. More importantly, Nan Lian was a Ri Guang. This woman was really open-minded. Nan Lian glanced at him with a smile. "There are strong and weak Ri Guang as well. Take you for example. If an early Yu Yao stood in front of you and insulted you, how long would it take you to kill him?" Lu Yi thought about it. An early Yu Yao could probably be killed with a single slash. With this comparison, he immediately understood what Nan Lian meant. He knew that Ma Bin was very powerful, but he didn't expect him to be this powerful. Walnut was also dumbfounded. She couldn't help but ask, "Shizhuan, we don't have any enmity with this Ma Bin, right?" Nan Lian sneered. "What enmity could we have with him? Don't worry, Shizhuan may not be good at other things, but I still have a lot of connections. If I really do meet him one day, Shizhuan will kowtow to him and guarantee your life." Walnut's face darkened. "Shizhuan, don't say any more." She felt embarrassed. Lu Yi wanted to ask more about Ma Bin, but he couldn't bring himself to do so, so he could only restrain himself. Fortunately, Walnut's curiosity was very strong. She had already told her Shizhuan to stop talking, but she couldn't help but ask, "What did this Ma Bin do to anger so many Ri Guang?" "He's called the Azure Demon King. Just by hearing this name, it's obvious that he's a guy who kills people like scything flax." Nan Lian clicked her tongue. "He often intrudes into realms by himself and kills the Ri Guang of those realms. As a result, there are naturally many people who want him dead. Why did he do that?" "Of course it's because of enmity." Nan Lian waved her hand. "Don't ask me what enmity I have with him. I don't know either. I only know that this Azure Demon King is very old. When I first started cultivating, he was already a Ri Guang, committing crimes everywhere. Now that I've been a Ri Guang for 1,000 years, he's still alive." As she said this, Nan Lian suddenly had a strange thought. Good people don't live long, but scourges live for 1,000 years? Chapter 1961. Walnut's face changed. "Master, don't think too much." She knew that her honored master's temperament was fickle. She was really afraid that her honored master would learn from that green demon king Ma Bin and do evil. Ma Bin had lived for a long time, not because of some scourge, but because he had his own secret method. "How dare you?" Nan Lian said. "How can a disciple talk to her master like that? Apologize." "Master, I'm sorry." Walnut apologized. "You're the one who's sorry, not the other way around." Nan Lian looked at her. Yes, disciple has let master down." Walnut kept nodding. Lu Yi and Yu Yaorao were dumbfounded. They felt the relationship between the master and disciple was really good. I'm sorry. As Nan Lian spoke, she rubbed Walnut's head as if her disciple was really an immature child. Where were we? Lu Yi hurriedly continued, Ma Bin is very old. Nan Lian nodded. This Ma Bin? I don't know what kind of grudge he has with those realms. Logically speaking, at his age, those who have a grudge against him should have all died long ago. It's said that one shouldn't be blamed on the third generation, but he's relentless and has set his sights on other people's descendants. But then again, he also has his own principles when it comes to killing people. Walnut was still scared. Master, we really don't have enmity with Ma Bin, right? If we did, would I still dare to stand here? Nan Lian rolled her eyes. Only now did Walnut feel assured. Lu Yi was speechless. Nan Lian was right, but once enmity was formed, it wasn't so easy to resolve it. How could those realms that had Rizhao dying to Ma Bin easily let him go? Those realms that could give birth to Rizhao were all very powerful realms. They wouldn't show weakness to external enemies. Enmity was passed down from generation to generation like this. Ma Bin's injuries are probably not light. Nan Lian suddenly murmured. Lu Ye's heart tightened, but she didn't dare to show it on the surface. She could only ask curiously, didn't you say he ran away? Nan Lian said, he escaped. Moreover, he fought 1 against 4 and killed one of them. However, he must have paid a heavy price. Lu Yi wanted to ask more questions, but Nan Lian was no longer in the mood to continue the conversation. She looked at Lu Yi and said, let's not talk about this anymore. Where are you going? Lu Yi regained his senses and quickly asked, 9 Mysteries Galaxy, does Senior know the location? He came from Yuhua Galaxy, but he didn't want to go back the way he came. Now that Yu Yaorao was by his side, Lu Yi wanted to send Yu Yaorao back first. At that time, he only needed to communicate with Soul Race's ancestral land, then he could easily return to 9 regions. Nan Lian shook her head and said, I don't know. I'm still looking for the location. What is this place? Lu Yi asked again. Here. While the two of them were talking, several figures were sitting cross-legged at the battlefield where Rizhao had fought. They were all tens of thousands of miles apart from each other. These people were all at Rizhao's level of cultivation. They had participated in the siege of Ma Bin just now. At this moment, their qi and blood were surging, and their magic power was surging. After a long while, an old man with white hair and beard let out a long breath and slowly opened his eyes. As expected of the Azure Demon King, Ma Bin. This strength is even stronger than the rumors. The 4 of them besieged Ma Bin, but in the end, 1 died and 3 were injured. Admittedly, the 4 of them only joined forces temporarily and weren't very skilled in cooperating. However, with the number of people here, they still managed to fight to this extent. This showed how terrifying Ma Bin was. Fellow Taoist Zunyu. In another direction, a woman opened her eyes. Her face was still slightly pale, and there was a hint of lingering fear in her eyes. The Zunyu she mentioned was Rizhao, the one who died in the battle. His strength wasn't the weakest among the 4 of them, but because he was targeted by Ma Bin, he died. I'll take care of fellow Taoist Zunyu's funeral, the old man said. The old man said, after this, I will make a trip to his homeland and bring the relics and news there. Then we'll have to trouble fellow Taoist Changfeng. Another young man, Rizhao, said, although fellow Taoist Zunyu died in this battle, Ma Bin also damaged his Tao foundation. Fellow Taoist Zunyu died a worthy death. In such a fierce and hasty battle, Ma Bin fought against 4 alone. Although he killed one of the enemies, how could he be unharmed? Nan Lian could tell that Ma Bin's injuries weren't light, but in reality, his injuries were more serious than what Nan Lian had seen from afar. If it were a normal injury, it would be fine. However, injuries to one's Tao foundation are not so easy to recover. The woman turned to look in Changfeng's direction. Fellow Taoist Changfeng, we should send a message out as soon as possible. Let the nearby top realms be on guard. Don't let Ma Bin find a chance to recover. If Ma Bin wanted to recover from his injuries, he would only have a chance to go to a top realm. However, the top realms were full of powerful people. How could they be so easy to invade? Therefore, as long as this path was blocked, Ma Bin's injuries would never be able to recover. In fact, they might even worsen. With his current age, if he couldn't recover from the damage to his Dao foundation, he would definitely die in the long run. Chang Feng nodded. Of course. However, compared to this old man is more concerned about another matter. As he spoke, he turned to look in the direction Ma Bin had fled. Don't the two of you feel that this matter is a little strange? Ma Bin clearly could have escaped. Why did he suddenly turn around and come back? Originally, the other two people didn't think of this, but after Changfeng's reminder, they immediately realized that this matter was indeed a little strange. If Ma Bin didn't turn around and counterattack, he should be able to escape successfully with his speed. After the Azura field closed, the four of them had gathered together by chance. They didn't have any specific arrangements beforehand. Therefore, Ma Bin only needed to get rid of them. It didn't matter how many of them there were. Ri Zhao, who looked like a teenager, pondered for a moment. His eyes lit up. Then what's in front that made him feel threatened or afraid? Chang Feng pondered for a moment and nodded. Perhaps so. But if that's all, Ma Bin can completely change directions and avoid it. Moreover, with Ma Bin's strength, who in this starry sky can make him feel afraid? What Taoist Chang Feng means is... The woman looked thoughtful. Chang Feng's eyes shone brightly. If there's someone Ma Bin cares about over there, then his strange behavior makes sense. The woman suddenly understood. He's afraid that the aftermath of the conflict will affect that person. In order to protect that person, he suddenly turned around and counterattacked. At this point, the woman's train of thought was also enlightened. If that's the case, then the person he cares about is definitely not Ri Zhao. If it's Ri Zhao, then Ma Bin doesn't need to be so careful. It has to be said that Ri Zhao's mind is extremely sharp. Ma Bin's slightly contradictory actions allowed them to deduce so many things. The teenager was puzzled. I've never heard of Ma Bin having descendants. The domain he was born in has long been shattered. What else in this world would he care about? Chang Feng said, no matter what it is, we'll know once we go and take a look. The three Ri Zhao looked at each other across the sky and set off. Azura domain. On the other side, Lu Yi fell into deep thought. According to Nan Lian's speculation, everyone should be in the Azura domain. This was a very vast star domain. No one knew how big it was, and no one had seen its true appearance. This was because the entire Azura domain had always been shrouded and concealed by the power of the starry sky supreme treasure, the Azura domain. Anyone who stepped into the Azura domain from the outside would be faced with a test, just like what Lu Yi encountered when he first entered. If a cultivator passed the test, they would directly enter the heavenly Azura domain. If not, they would naturally return to where they came from and could only enter again after 10 years. Therefore, no one knew what the real Azura domain looked like until now, and there was no star chart in this regard. Now that the Azura domain was closed and the mysterious power of the starry sky supreme treasure disappeared, the Azura domain that had been shrouded by the power of the Azura domain was revealed. The nearly 10 million cultivators who were originally in the Azura domain were also scattered in this area. This was Nan Lian's speculation, but it should be correct. Therefore, even a Ri Zhao powerhouse like Nan Lian didn't know which direction to go. She could only choose a direction and try her luck. In any case, as long as she left the Azura domain, she could find the way home in any known galaxy. Moreover, as a Ri Zhao, she could also deduce the approximate location of her hometown by observing the surrounding stars. However, this would take some time, and Nan Lian hadn't done it yet. I've heard about Jiuxian. It's not far from the myriad clouds where I am. It's roughly in the same direction. If little friend doesn't mind, you can go with me. Nan Lian said. Lu Yi glanced at Yu Yaorao, and the latter nodded repeatedly. Then he cupped his fists and said, Thank you, senior. After all, it would be more convenient and faster to go with Ri Zhao. As long as Nan Lian could find the range of the myriad clouds, she could roughly determine Jiuxian's location. Then she could send Yu Yaorao back. As for himself, it wouldn't be too late to look for the passage to the soul race's ancestral land. It's no trouble at all. Nan Lian faintly smiled, not minding it at all. She was very optimistic about Lu Yi, A junior who had allowed her to fiercely satisfy her gambling addiction and even made a lot of money. In particular, Lu Yi had displayed extraordinary talent and background in the battle arena. Nan Lian didn't mind investing in him in advance. Someone like Lu Yi, once he advanced to the Rizhao realm, would definitely become famous. Maybe he would be able to help her in some way in the future. This was also a kind of gamble. She was betting on her own vision. Nan Lian suddenly raised her head and looked into the depths of the starry sky, and her brows slightly wrinkled. What's wrong? Walnut. Stand behind me, Nan Lian said. Walnut was standing behind his master, so he was undoubtedly talking to Lu Yi and Yu Yaorao. Lu Yi and Yu Yaorao didn't hesitate and stood behind Nan Lian. After a few breaths, a figure suddenly appeared not far in front of them. His majestic gaze swept over them, and when he saw Nan Lian, he was slightly startled. Obviously, he didn't expect Rizhao to be here. End of this chapter. Chapter 1962. On the meteorite, Lu Ye's gaze swept past Nan Lian's figure and looked forward. He found that the newcomer was an old man with white hair and beard. Although he looked old, he was hale and hearty. The faint magic power fluctuations on the surface of his body were like the gentle breathing of a hibernating dragon. Rizhao. Lu Yi immediately noticed. So it's fellow Taoist Nan Lian. The old man recognized Nan Lian's identity and bowed. There were many Rizhao in the Azura field, but not many. Most people knew each other, and even if they hadn't seen each other, they had heard of each other. Without a doubt, this old man recognized Nan Lian. Fellow Taoist Chang Feng. Nan Lian smiled and nodded. Fellow Taoist, you seem to be in a hurry. What brings you here? Changfeng. Lu Ye's heart skipped a beat. Ma Bin had called this name before. It seemed that this old man was one of the people who participated in the encirclement of Ma Bin just now. Almost at the same time when Lu Yi thought of this, Chang Feng suddenly glanced at him. This made Lu Ye's heart tremble. Rizhao's perception is really sharp. It's just a very small change in expression, but it was noticed by the other party. He quickly lowered his eyes. Chang Feng's gaze swept past him, then looked at Walnut and Yu Yaorao. Only then did he say, since fellow Taoist is here, this old man wants to ask if fellow Taoist has noticed anything or anyone here that is worthy of your attention? Nan Lian had a puzzled expression. In what way? In any way, Chang Feng said. Nan Lian laughed. I don't know how to answer fellow Taoist's question. It's just that I've been standing here all this time and haven't noticed anything suspicious. Chang Feng said, these little friends behind fellow Taoist are. Nan Lian smiled and said, they're all juniors of this galaxy. They happened to be with me before the Azura field closed. I see. Chang Feng nodded slightly. Then I'll have to trouble you. Fellow Taoist. Nan Lian raised her hand. Chang Feng, who was about to leave, turned to look at her. Is there anything else? Nan Lian said, may I ask what fellow Taoist is doing? Of course, if it's a secret, fellow Taoist, just pretend I never asked. Long Feng thought for a moment, then he said, there is no secret, and there is nothing that can't be said. It's just that since Mr. has been standing here, you must know about the battle just now. That Green Demon King Ma Bin's performance was a bit strange, so I suspect that there is someone or something he cares about in this direction, so I came to investigate. Nan Lian wasn't an idiot. When she heard him say this, she thought for a moment and a look of realization appeared on her face. No wonder he suddenly turned around and attacked. Behind her, Lu Ye's eyes were still lowered. Her expression was calm, but her heart was not as calm as it seemed. Ri Guang was still Ri Guang. He could infer the reason for Ma Bin's strange behavior because Ma Bin's divine sense paused on him for a moment. However, even though it was not a flaw, Chang Feng still noticed it. He rejoiced inwardly that he had encountered Nan Lian. Otherwise, if he had been stopped by Chang Feng with Yu Yaorao, who knew what kind of attitude Chang Feng would have and what kind of methods he would have used? Under Ri Guang's majesty, any abnormal behavior would be infinitely magnified, and Chang Feng might really have noticed something. After Chang Feng left, he still had to continue investigating. The other two Ri Guang were also searching nearby. If there was really someone Ma Bin cared about in this direction, with their methods, they would definitely be able to find out. After a while, Lu Yi was sitting in a flower basket-shaped star boat, flying at lightning speed. Ri Guang's speed was indeed extraordinary. Yu Yaorao was sitting on his left, and Walnut was sitting on his right, talking to him. As Yu Yao, she naturally had a lot of common topics with Lu Yi. She was especially curious about Lu Ye's incredible strength, so she wanted to ask him for advice. Although she had Ri Guang as her master to guide her, her master was sometimes too unreliable. On the contrary, she learned a lot from Lu Yi. Lu Yi could feel that Nan Lian's gaze had faintly swept past him a few times. She should be suspicious. Before meeting Chang Feng, although Lu Yi tried his best to conceal it, he still asked Nan Lian about Ma Bin. If Chang Feng hadn't come, Nan Lian wouldn't have thought too much about it, but since Chang Feng had come and said those words, as long as Nan Lian wasn't stupid, she would have guessed. But she should just be guessing it didn't matter. Especially in front of Chang Feng, she had personally said that they were all juniors of her galaxy. Since that was the case, she shouldn't meddle. Following Ri Guang's side was peaceful. After a few days, Nan Lian suddenly showed a happy expression. "Ah, I found Wuxia's location." To think that a Ri Guang powerhouse like her would one day get lost in the starry sky and spend such a long time to find the direction of her homeland. It was quite a bitter experience. Master is really amazing. Walnut clapped. Nan Lian snorted and said with a complacent look, "Of course." Lu Yi hurriedly asked, "Senior, where is Jiuxian?" Nan Lian had said before that Wuxia and Jiuxian weren't too far apart and were roughly in the same direction. Now that she had located Wuxia's location, it shouldn't be a problem to deduce Jiuxian's location. If it weren't for the previous incident, Lu Yi wouldn't have minded following Nan Lian for a while longer. After all, Ri Guang's speed was indeed fast. But now, he felt that it was better to separate as soon as possible. Nan Lian didn't give him any sense of threat. This woman had always been easy to talk to, but Lu Yi had a guilty conscience. It was better to leave as soon as possible. If it's Jiuxian, Nan Lian counted with her fingers, then pointed in a direction. "It should be this way." She then looked at Lu Yi. "Why, are you leaving already?" Lu Yi said, "Yes, thank you for taking care of me these days, Senior." Walnut showed a reluctant expression. "Senior brother Lu, do you want to travel for a few more days? Anyway, we're all in the same general direction." She had learned a lot from exchanging experiences with Lu Yi. If she still had the Azura field, she felt that her ranking would have risen by several hundred places. As soon as she finished speaking, Nan Lian slapped the back of her head. "All good things must come to an end. Don't disturb them." Yu Yaorao, who had an innocent look on her face, was stunned for a moment. Then she blushed and lowered her head, not saying anything. Walnut touched the back of her head and said with an aggrieved expression, "Master, you hit me again. I'll become stupid later." Nan Lian ignored her and just looked at Lu Yi with a smile. "Little friend, take care." Lu Yi bowed solemnly. "Thank you, Senior." Yu Yaorao also hurriedly bowed. The two of them jumped off the star boat that looked like a flower basket. After a few breaths, Nan Lian and her master disappeared from sight. "Let's go." Lu Yi summoned his star boat, called out to Yu Yaorao, and flew in the direction Nan Lian had pointed out. The Azura field had been closed for half a month, and the bustle of the Azura field had died down a lot. After all, most people, like Lu Yi, would try to find a way to leave this star field as soon as possible. As time passed, the number of cultivators here would become fewer and fewer. Only some people with evil intentions would continue to stay here or wander around and do evil things. After some time, while Lu Yi was driving the star boat, Yu Yaorao suddenly said in surprise, "Senior brother, I've contacted someone from our galaxy." During this time, she had been sending messages to the outside world. Unfortunately, she had not received any reply until now. "What did they say?" Lu Yi asked. Yu Yaorao sent another message. After a while, she said, "Senior Nan Lian is really amazing. Her calculation was right. This direction is indeed the Nine Mysteries Galaxy. The senior brother I contacted said that many people from our galaxy have gathered there. They are led by a martial uncle Rizhao. On the way back, they are trying to gather the lost cultivators of our galaxy." "That's good. Lu Yi nodded. In this way, he only needed to send Yu Yaorao there. He did not need to follow her to the Nine Mysteries Galaxy. During this time, Yu Yaorao had been contacting the cultivators of our galaxy. He had also been trying to communicate with the ancestral land of the soul race. Now, he had made some progress. He felt an extremely weak response in a certain direction. This undoubtedly indicated that there was a passage to the ancestral land of the soul race in that direction. After sending Yu Yaorao there, he could set off in that direction. Ask them how to meet up with us, Lu Yi said. Okay. Yu Yaorao nodded quickly and communicated with them. 3 days later, Lu Yi and Yu Yaorao stood on a meteorite and waited. Not long after, a huge ship appeared in their field of vision. The ship was 6 or 7 stories high, and it was decorated rather magnificently. There was a large Xian character on the hull of the ship. This is it. It's the ship of our world. Yu Yaorao was excited. After wandering for so many days, she was finally going to meet someone familiar. The next moment, she led the way, and Lu Yi followed closely behind. On the spacious deck, many people were standing on the side of the ship and looking over. There were even some people waving at them. Lu Yi even felt Rizhao's divine sense sweep over him. He couldn't help but look up at the highest point of the ship. That place should be where Martial Uncle Rizhao, whom Yu Yaorao mentioned, was waiting. Junior sister Yaorao. On the deck, a man with a dignified appearance looked at Yu Yaorao, who was flying down, and greeted her with a smile. He revealed an expression as if he was relieved of a heavy burden. Senior brother's son. Yu Yaorao returned the greeting with an aggrieved look on her face, as if a kitten who had been wandering outside for a long time had finally returned home. It's good that you're fine. Senior brother's son nodded and turned to look at Lu Yi. At first, he didn't pay much attention to it. Although Yu Yaorao had contacted him before and said that she was with a good friend of Yu Yao, he didn't pay much attention to Lu Yi after asking about his name and origin. But at this moment, when he saw Lu Yi, he couldn't help but be stunned. Then, he was filled with deep veneration. So it's the Yu Yao first rank. I apologize for my rudeness. There were many cultivators on the deck. Most of them were constellations, but there were also a few Yu Yao. When they heard senior brother's son's words, they couldn't help but widen their eyes and look at Lu Yi. End of this chapter. Chapter 1963. In the 2 years before the Azura Arena closed, something big had happened in the Yu Yao battlefield. A mysterious expert had defeated Abro from the ancient barbarian realm and Gu Sheng from the yellow dragon realm, taking the top spot on the Yu Yao battle ranking. When the Yu Yao battle ranking was announced, countless Yu Yao were shocked. After all, they had long known of Abro and Gu Sheng's strength. In the entire Yu Yao battle ranking, these two were the most powerful. Ever since they came to the Azura Arena, no one had been able to shake their positions. They had always been each other's opponents. How could the Yu Yao battle ranking, which had been maintained for many years, suddenly be broken by a mysterious expert one day? How could the Yu Yao battle ranking not care? Although there were some spectators that day, there weren't that many of them. In addition, Lu Yi had hidden his name on the battle list, so other than a few people who knew his background, most people didn't know his specific origin or what his name was. After that, this Yu Yao champion, who had risen to fame like a legend, suddenly disappeared without a trace. He never appeared in the battle arena again, and his ranking fell again and again. By the time the Azura Arena closed, he was already outside the top 500. However, no one looked down on him because of this. He was still recognized as the Yu Yao battle ranking. Many people said that this Yu Yao battle ranking didn't care about his ranking, so he didn't continue to participate in the battle ranking. However, in reality, Lu Yi had been helping the heavenly Azura race deal with the bloodline curse during that time. Moreover, he had the same discount as the heavenly Azura race, so the benefits of the Yu Yao battle ranking could be ignored. Sun Zheng had undoubtedly watched the battles between Lu Yi, Abro, and Gu Sheng, so he recognized him at a glance. The other Yu Yao battle ranking disciples hadn't seen Lu Yi before. When they heard Sun Zheng's words, they all looked over curiously. They had admired this mysterious Yu Yao battle ranking for a long time. Now that he was in person, they all came up to greet him. Lu Yi returned their greetings. After all, this was the first time they had met, so there wasn't much to say. They just wanted to get to know each other. Lu Yi turned to look at Yu Yaorao. Under her nervous and apprehensive gaze, he said, "Junior sister Yu, I have to go. Take care. We'll meet again if fate wills it." Although Yu Yaorao had guessed what Lu Yi was going to say, she was still reluctant to part with him. Pursing her red lips, she nodded and said, "Senior brother, take care of yourself too." Sun Jing glanced at Yu Yaorao and understood what she meant. He smiled and said, "Are you leaving now? Why don't you take a break?" To be able to defeat Abro and Gu Sheng, he would definitely become a great talent in the future. Jiao Xian sighed at his own inferiority. It was obvious that junior sister Yaorao was interested in Jiao Xian. If he could facilitate this fate, it would be beneficial for both Yu Yaorao and Jiao Xian in the future. Yu Yaorao was thin-skinned and didn't want to keep her here, but he naturally didn't have such concerns. Lu Yi shook his head and said, "I appreciate Brother Sun's kind intentions. I should also go find the way home." Sun Jing tried his best to persuade him to stay. There is no need to rush. Fellow Taoist may not know this, but martial ants and Exen speculated that this place was the Azura domain covered by the power of the Azura field. After the Azura field closed, we were scattered here. It is difficult to distinguish directions for the time being. Martial Ant also used some secret methods to deduce Jiao Xian's location. Instead of looking around aimlessly, why don't you return to Jiao Xian with us and ask Martial Ant for help? It might be more convenient than searching on your own. If Lu Yi didn't use the seven-colored divine lotus to communicate with the soul race's ancestral land, this would undoubtedly be a very reliable suggestion, but now that he had faintly sensed the location of a passage to the soul race's ancestral land, there was naturally no need to waste time. Glancing at Yu Yaorao behind Sun Jing, Lu Yi saw the hopeful look in her eyes, but he still shook his head. Just as he was about to speak, a powerful aura suddenly erupted from the cabin on the top floor, followed by a woman's voice. "An enemy is attacking. Continue forward and prepare your defenses." As soon as the voice fell, Lu Yi vaguely saw a figure fly out from there and rush towards the depths of the starry sky. On the ship, all the cultivators were startled. Sun Jing reacted extremely quickly and hurriedly shouted, "Hurry up and activate the defensive array." Many cultivators quickly got to work. Lu Yi couldn't help but spread out his divine sense, but soon his brows furrowed because he vaguely sensed that many powerful auras were rapidly approaching them. At this moment, the violent sounds of Rizhao's battle suddenly came from the depths of the starry sky in the distance. It should be Jiao Xian's Rizhao facing the enemy. For her to take the initiative to fight, the other party was undoubtedly Rizhao. "Senior brother, come with me." Yu Yaorao suddenly reached out and grabbed Lu Ye's hand, pulling him in a certain direction, and in a moment, they were inside the cabin. Sun Zheng was already standing there, and many cultivators were sitting in various spirit arrays, urging their strength. "Who are these people?" Sun Zheng asked with a solemn expression. In one of the detection spirit arrays, a cultivator had his eyes closed and was using the power of the spirit arrays to scan the surroundings. When he heard Sun Zheng's question, he immediately replied, "I saw Fan Gu's star ship. It really is them." Sun Jing seemed to have expected this, and he gritted his teeth and asked, "How many of them are there?" "Less than 10. The cultivator replied, and then his expression changed. "No, there are at least 15 of them here." Sun Zheng's face paled. 15 people was not a large number, but if they dared to come at a time like this, then they were undoubtedly Yu Yao. In other words, there were 15 Yu Yao here, and how many were there on their side? He immediately understood the urgency of the situation. Fan Gu's starship had somehow discovered their whereabouts, and Rizhao had first lured martial ants and Xian away, and then a dozen Yu Yao had come to attack them. They were trying to kill them all. The difference in numbers was too great, and they were no match for them at all. He could only give the order to increase their speed to the maximum and escape as quickly as possible. On Lu Ye's side, Yu Yaorao was still holding his hand tightly, and it was clear that she was very nervous. "Fan Gu is?" Lu Yi asked softly. Only then did Yu Yaorao come back to her senses, and she explained, Fangu Galaxy is a galaxy close to Jiaoshan Galaxy. We don't have a good relationship with them, and there are always conflicts between us. This time, they must have discovered our whereabouts and targeted us. She didn't expect that they would encounter such a situation after finally reuniting with the cultivators of their galaxy. She couldn't help but feel a little apologetic. Senior Marshal Brother, I've implicated you. Lu Yi shook his head. At his current cultivation level, cultivators of the same level as him couldn't pose any threat to him. The only one who could threaten him was Ri Zhao. However, Fangu's side should also be underprepared. Otherwise, they wouldn't have sent so few people. If there wasn't a second Ri Zhao, he wouldn't be afraid at all. However, if there was a second Ri Zhao, he secretly made up his mind. When the time came, he would put Yu Yaorao into the Little Flower realm and use the power of the Red Talisman to escape. Senior Marshal Brother's son, we can't escape. A cultivator shouted. Although this kind of huge ship could accommodate more cultivators, it wasn't as fast as a small ship. The attacking cultivators were all driving small ships, so it was easy for them to catch up. Fight. Sun Zheng's face turned cold. As soon as he gave the order, the battle immediately broke out. A moment later, the ship kept shaking violently. The cultivators shouted one after another. The strength of the defensive formation was constantly decreasing with the enemy's fierce attacks. Once the defensive formation was broken, the enemy would be able to do whatever they wanted. Sun Zheng walked up to Lu Yi and bowed. Fellow Taoist Lu, this is unexpected. I'm afraid you'll be implicated. But if the lips are gone, the teeth will be cold. We may need your help later. I wonder if you can join forces with us to fight against the enemy. Fangu's actions had indeed caught Jiaoshan Galaxy off guard. However, they probably didn't expect that the first place of the monthly Jade ranking would be here. Sun Zheng had seen the battle between Lu Yi and Abdullah with his own eyes, so he naturally knew how important the first place of the monthly Jade ranking was. If Lu Yi was willing to help, Jiaoshan Galaxy might be able to turn the situation around. No problem. Lu Yi nodded. At this point, he couldn't just leave. After all, he couldn't tell Fangu's people that he wasn't a Jiaoshan cultivator and ask them to let him go. Therefore, just as Sun Zheng said, he was already implicated in this matter. Since that was the case, he had no choice but to fight back. Sun Zheng was overjoyed. Thank you in advance, fellow Taoist. He turned around and left. It was obvious that he was going to mobilize everyone before the battle. Lu Yi looked down and said, Junior Marshal Sister Yu, I'm going to meet the enemy. Yu Yaorao nodded. Senior Marshal Brother, be careful. Lu Yi shook his hand. Yu Yaorao looked down and realized that she hadn't let go of Lu Ye's hand. Her ears turned red and she quickly let go. A moment later, the 5 Yu Yao of Jiaoshan Galaxy gathered on the deck. Including Lu Yi, there were only 6 of them. This didn't mean that Jiaoshan only had a few Yu Yao. It was just that these were the only ones that could gather. The others were still scattered all over the Azura realm. On the other hand, Fangu's side had more than a dozen people surrounding the ship. They were using all kinds of methods to break the ship's defensive formation. Sun Zheng, how have you been? It was one of Fangu's subordinates, Yu Yao. Her voice was filled with pride and arrogance. You didn't expect us to meet here, did you? Sun Zheng's face was gloomy and he didn't respond. Who is the strongest among them? Lu Yi, who was standing beside him, suddenly asked. Sun Zheng replied, that's the guy who shouted. His name is Jianghu, and he's ranked in the top 1,000 on the Yueyao ranking. That's indeed not bad. Lu Yi nodded. There were so many Moonjade cultivators in the Azura arena. Anyone who could rank in the top 1,000 of the Moonjade ranking was clearly an extraordinary figure. As he spoke, Lu Yi looked over at Jianghu and found him to be somewhat familiar. I vaguely seem to have seen it somewhere before? As if he had sensed Lu Ye's gaze, Jianghu's gaze shifted, and he saw Lu Ye's face clearly. This caused him to be involuntarily stunned, because at this very moment he suddenly had the same feeling as Lu Yi. I vaguely seem to have seen this person somewhere before? End of chapter. Chapter 1964. Yu Yao's memory wasn't bad, so whether it was Lu Yi or Jiang'an, it only took them a moment to remember where they had met each other. Lu Ye's expression was calm, but Jiang An's was horrified. At this moment, Lu Yi, who was supposed to be standing on the deck, suddenly became dazed. Jiang An felt his hair stand on end, as if a great danger was about to befall him. Without thinking, he fiercely circulated his magic power to protect his body. At the same time, his blood boiled, and his fists punched forward like dragons. Originally, there was nothing in front of him. However, when he punched out with his fists, a figure appeared. It was Lu Yi. Jiang An used all of his strength in this attack, and he was confident that no Yu Yao could withstand it. The ferocious power of the attack directly smashed Lu Ye's body into pieces. Jiang An was stunned and realized something was wrong. What he had shattered was a shadow. His opponent's speed was too fast, so fast that he couldn't see him clearly. This scene had happened before in the Yu Yao battle arena. His experience back then was exactly the same as today's. Behind him, Jiang An roared and swung his arms to counterattack. However, he had just assumed a stance when he noticed that the magic power protecting his body had been broken. Then pain shot through his body, and he froze on the spot. The corners of his eyes twitched violently. He clearly saw that a person had appeared beside him without him noticing. The person was holding a long saber, and the saber had pierced through his abdomen. Extremely pure magic power condensed in the long saber. Jiang An didn't doubt that once this person activated it, he would die in an instant. Last time in the battle arena, he had been defeated like this. Although he didn't die because of the battle arena's protection, there was an extremely strange power lingering around his wound. In the end, he had to spend 30,000 Azure seals to find someone to help him deal with it. The Yu Yao battle champion. Only now did Jiang An grit his teeth and growl. It wasn't because he was unwilling, but because he wanted to remind his companions who the enemy was. He knew that no matter how unwilling he was, it was useless. Last time, the battle arena's rules protected him, but this time, he would die without a doubt. However, he couldn't understand why the Yu Yao battle champion was on Jiuxian's starship. Could it be that he was from Jiuxian? But if that's the case, why haven't I heard of this person before? By the time he finished speaking, Lu Yi had already sent him flying with a kick. Blood gushed out of his wound like a fountain. Lu Yi stood in place, gently shaking off the blood on his mountain plate saber. His gaze calmly swept over the enemy. Whether it was Fan Gu, Yu Yao, Jiuxian, Sun Zheng, or the others, they were all rooted to the spot. Sun Zheng and the others didn't expect Lu Yi to be so quick and decisive. Jiang An, who was the strongest on Fan Gu's side, couldn't even last one round against him. Such strength, how shocking was that? His strength was about the same as Jiang An's, perhaps even a little inferior. If this Yu Yao champion could kill Jiang An so easily, didn't that mean that he would be able to defeat him in a single exchange? How could there be such a huge difference in strength when they were both at the late Moonjade realm? Even though Sun Zheng had personally witnessed the battle between Lu Yi and Abdullah, and knew the weight of the Yu Yao champion, he only realized how shallow and laughable his previous understanding was when he compared it to Lu Yi. After a brief moment of shock and astonishment, Fan Gu's Yu Yao roared, "Attack together! Kill him!" They were enraged. Even though Jiang An had revealed Lu Ye's identity, they didn't back down. They outnumbered Jiuxian by several times. One person might not be a match, but what about 2, 3, or 4? They were all Yu Yao. No matter how strong the Yu Yao champion was, there would be times when 2 fists would be outnumbered. As soon as he finished speaking, more than 10 Yu Yao charged at Lu Yi. Seeing this, Sun Zheng hurriedly shouted, "Attack!" In the next instant, several of Jiuxian's Yu Yaos flew out to meet the enemy. However, their strength was limited, and each of them could only hold back 1 Yu Yao. They could only watch as Lu Yi was surrounded and attacked by close to 10 people. Sun Zheng couldn't help but worry. Although Lu Ye's strength was astonishing, there was a limit to a person's strength. If he couldn't hold on, then all the cultivators on the ship would suffer. Therefore, he had to deal with his opponents as soon as possible and help Lu Yi share the burden. He was confident that he could do this because he had purposely intercepted an opponent who was much weaker than him. He wanted to reduce the gap between their numbers as soon as possible. As soon as the battle began, his opponents were forced to retreat. Sun Jing took a moment to look at Lu Yi. For a moment he couldn't shift his gaze away. This was because Lu Ye's figure was moving back and forth in the chaotic battlefield. As he moved, the saber lights flickered and disappeared. Groans and screams of pain rang out one after another. Blood splattered everywhere. Sun Zheng could not believe his eyes. He had thought that with so many Yu Yao surrounding Lu Yi, no matter how strong he was, he would be at a disadvantage. However, that was not the case at all. He had never seen such a nimble figure before. Although there were many of them, it was difficult for them to form an effective encirclement against Lu Yi. On the contrary, it was the enemies who were injured one after another as Lu Yi moved around. Suddenly he felt a sharp pain. He had been hit by an opponent while he was distracted. Fortunately, there was a difference in their strength. With the protection of his transcendence energy, he wasn't seriously injured. Sun Zheng hurriedly collected his thoughts and focused on dealing with his opponent. Screams of pain continued to ring out. However, after a dozen breaths, a familiar roar rang out. "Retreat! Everyone retreat!" Sun Zheng was stunned. He looked in the direction of the voice. Jianghu? He wasn't dead? When he looked, he realized that Jianghu wasn't the only one alive. Even Fan Gu and the Yu Yao who had been injured by Lu Yi were still alive. While he was distracted, his opponents hurriedly retreated and left. Lu Yi stood in place and watched as Fan Gu and the other Yu Yao retreated. Since he didn't move, the Yu Yao of Jiushuan naturally didn't dare to chase after him. They had won this battle thanks to his strength. Without him leading the charge, the Yu Yao of Jiushuan would be courting death. "Fellow Taoist Lu." Sun Zheng stepped forward and saluted Lu Yi. His attitude was undoubtedly more respectful than before. A late-stage Yu Yao like him would only show such respect in front of Rizhao. Lu Yi looked in the direction where Fan Gu and the other Yu Yao retreated. No one knew what he was thinking. Sun Zheng didn't disturb him. After a while, Lu Yi suddenly turned around and cupped his fists. "Fellow Taoist son, most of Fan Gu's people are injured. They probably won't come and offend you again. Rizhao should be returning soon. I'll take my leave first." As he spoke, he looked in the direction of the ship. Yu Yaorao rushed out of the cabin and onto the deck, looking at him from afar. Lu Yi smiled at her. "Junior sister Yu, we'll meet again if fate wills it." As soon as he finished speaking, he disappeared in a flash. "Senior brother Lu." Yu Yaorao reached out and called out, but she didn't get any response. She could only watch as Lu Ye's figure disappeared from her sight. For a moment, she looked lonely. After a while, Sun Exin, the Jiushuan Rizhao, returned. She had fought with Fan Gu's Rizhao for a while. Since Fan Gu's Rizhao had retreated, she naturally wouldn't rashly pursue and kill him. She was concerned about the safety of the local cultivators and hurried back to investigate. In the end, she found that although many of the ship's formations were damaged, there were no casualties. She found it hard to believe. She was already mentally prepared to collect the corpses of her juniors. After all, Fan Gu had caught them off guard this time. The difference in numbers between them and Yu Yao was just too great. After a short while, she understood the whole story after Sun Jing explained it to her. She also finally understood why Fan Gu's Rizhao had retreated so quickly. He obviously knew that this operation had failed and didn't want to waste any more time. The reason why they were still safe and sound was all thanks to the protection of the Yu Yao leader called Lu Yi. Otherwise, they would have suffered heavy casualties. She summoned Yu Yaorao, who was most familiar with Lu Yi, and asked her, "Oh, he's the Lu Ye who helped you in the Alpha origin stage back then?" Sun Exin revealed a look of interest. She had undoubtedly heard of this matter. Yu Yaorao's aptitude in the Nine Mysteries world was extraordinary. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to obtain a quota to enter the reincarnation tree back then. After obtaining the Alpha origin stage spirit light, Yu Yaorao's prospects had undoubtedly expanded. It could be said that Jiushuan Rizhao had treated her as a key talent to be nurtured. "You two are quite fated to meet again in the Azura battlefield." Sun Exin nodded. Yu Yaorao's face was a little gloomy, but she still said, "Yes, senior brother Lu and I met in a training location. It was only with his help that I was able to complete the training." She was undoubtedly talking about the first time they met. As for using the Azura summoning token to summon Lu, she wasn't going to mention this to anyone. After all, this matter involved the death of a senior sister. In just a few decades, he has cultivated from the Divine Sea to the advanced Yu Yao stage. Moreover, his strength is so outstanding. Sun Xian was secretly shocked. No matter how knowledgeable she was, she had never heard of anyone who could cultivate so quickly. This was no longer something that could be described with the word genius. Yes, Mr. Lu's strength is truly incomparable. Jianghu was seriously injured by a single slash from him. Sun Zheng's heart trembled as he recalled the scene he had seen. It's a pity that Mr. Lu didn't kill Fan Gu and the other Yu Yao cultivators. None of them died. Sun Xian said, "After all, Fan Gu doesn't have any grudges with him. Fan Gu was only implicated because he happened to be there at the right time. He displayed his strength appropriately and made the invaders retreat on their own accord. He didn't want to create too big of a grudge because of this. Fan Gu's actions can be considered mature, and it's also the best way for him to deal with this. But no matter what, he is your savior." Sun Zheng respectfully nodded. Given the strength Lu Yi had just displayed, he could have left on his own. Sun Zheng believed that no one on Fan Gu's side could stop him. However, he still helped them. It was likely that a large part of this was to protect Yu Yaorao. Sun Xian looked at Yu Yaorao and said, "Such a person's future is limitless. If you are interested, you have to seize the opportunity." Yu Yaorao was stunned. She quickly waved her hand and said, "Senior Master, I don't." Sun Xian smiled and said, "Whether you do or not, you know it clearly in your heart." Then, as if she had thought of something, she sighed and said, "Young people should dare to think and do. Otherwise, many things will become regrets when they are old." Chapter 1965. Lu Ye's eyes flashed as he traveled alone in the boundless starry sky. He had originally planned to leave Yu Yaorao to Jiuxian and head to the passage leading to the Soul Race's ancestral land, but he had made an unexpected discovery during the battle just now. He couldn't help but be a little concerned, so he made a prompt decision to bid farewell to Yu Yaorao and move alone. With the help of the mountain coiling sabers Fang energy left on Fan Gu's Yu Yao, Lu Yi could easily grasp their exact location. Therefore, even if he knew there was a sunshine expert in the enemy camp, he should be fine as long as he was careful. The only thing he needed to worry about now was Sunshine's speed. If Sunshine was driving the star boat, he might not be able to catch up. Fortunately, his worries were unnecessary. The other party's movements were neither fast nor slow, and he didn't exceed the speed of the Yu Yao. Lu Yi was still far behind Fan Gu's group. A few days later, Lu Yi suddenly sensed that the residual Fang energy on one of the Yu Yao's body had disappeared without a trace. He immediately understood that Sunshine had helped to dissolve the Fang energy that had invaded her body. As for which Lu Yi it was, he didn't know. Of the dozen or so Yu Yao who had attacked him before, except for a few, he had injured all of them with Fang energy residue. He couldn't help but feel helpless, but he couldn't stop them. If all of the residual Fang energy in Yu Yao's body were to be completely neutralized, then he wouldn't be able to continue tracking her. Furthermore, after the previous battle, if he were to get too close to Yu Yao and be detected by the Fan Gu cultivators, then he would definitely suffer a terrible fate. He could only pray that Sunshine wouldn't act too quickly. In the following period, the Fang energy in one of the Yu Yao's body disappeared almost every few days. In less than a month, Lu Yi had completely lost track of Fan Gu's group. He became even more cautious and didn't even dare to use the star boat. He only used his physical body to traverse the starry sky, constantly maintaining the concealment and aura-concealing spirit runes. After such a long time, he had a rough idea of the direction Fan Gu's group was heading in. If he guessed correctly, that direction should be the Fan Gu galaxy. Since he couldn't pinpoint their exact location, he could only sneak into the Fan Gu galaxy and act according to the circumstances. One day, Lu Yi was stealthily moving forward when he suddenly sensed something. He hurriedly dashed towards a nearby shattered continent and found a good hiding spot. Moments later, a star boat flew over from that direction. A man was standing on the star boat. Lu Yi didn't pay much attention to it at first, but after taking a look, he immediately revealed a look of joy and immediately urged his divine sense slightly. The oncoming planetary ship came to a halt. The cultivators on it glanced around and soon spotted the floating continent where Lu Yi was hiding. Then they flew over in a flash. As soon as he came to a stop, Lu Yi came out of his hiding place. As their eyes met, the newcomer revealed a complex expression. Lu Yi felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. If Sun Zheng were here, he would definitely be puzzled. This person was one of the Yu Yaos who had attacked them before. Her cultivation base was not high, only at the early Yu Yao realm. She was an insignificant existence among the dozen or so Yu Yaos. But from the looks on Lu Ye's face, there was no doubt that they knew each other. Lu Yi cupped his fists and said, "Long time no see, fellow Taoist Jew." Zhu Yuan. Back when he had just gone to the myriad manifestations sea, he had been worried about making ends meet. Therefore, he had accepted a mission to deliver supplies on Recruitment Island, thinking that he might be able to earn some spirit jades to make ends meet. Zhu Yuan had been part of that mission. Lu Yi thought it would be a very simple mission, but who would have thought that something would happen halfway through? Zhu Yuan lured the few cultivators who had accepted the mission to a desolate star. Everyone else died tragically on the spot, and only Lu Yi survived. It was on that desolate planet that Lu Yi had met the injured Ma Bin. It had happened not long after Ma Bin had killed Rizhao of Myriad Manifestations Island. Ma Bin had sensed Lu Ye's presence when he had fled from Myriad Manifestations Island. That was why he had asked Zhu Yuan to lure him to that desolate planet and use the opportunity to confirm Lu Ye's identity. Since then, Lu Yi had never seen Ma Bin again, nor had he seen Zhu Yuan again. Therefore, he had never imagined that he would meet Zhu Yuan again in Yu Yao's team that had attacked Jiao Xian. When he had met Zhu Yuan's eyes, both of them had been stunned for a moment. Neither of them had expected to meet in such a place. However, the two of them had a tacit understanding and had kept their composure. They hadn't even had the slightest bit of secret communication. Since both sides had Rizhao fighting nearby, they had been very careful. Back in the Myriad Manifestations Sea, Ma Bin had borrowed Zhu Yuan's hand to carry out his mission. It was clear that Zhu Yuan was someone Ma Bin trusted. Now, it seemed that Zhu Yuan was undoubtedly a cultivator from Fangu Galaxy. What about Ma Bin? Could it be that he was also in Fangu Galaxy? Nan Lian had said that Ma Bin was most likely seriously injured this time. The reason he had chosen to turn around and fight back was because he didn't want to implicate Lu Yi, a junior from the 9 states. Fundamentally speaking, Ma Bin had been injured because of Lu Yi. If he hadn't found any clues about Ma Bin, he wouldn't have been able to intervene in Rizhao's matter. However, since he had found some clues, Lu Yi couldn't ignore them. This was why Lu Yi had hurriedly left Jiao Xian's team and secretly followed the cultivators from Fangu Galaxy. Therefore, Zhu Yuan's sudden return at this time was somewhat thought-provoking. The wounds on Zhu Yuan's body had already disappeared, and the residual Fang power had also been dealt with. It should have been Rizhao from Fangu Galaxy. That's right, long time no see. Fellow Taoist, your strength has improved too quickly. As expected of the master's favor, Zhu Yuan said with a sigh. Zhu Yuan sighed. When they met on the 10,000 Creations Sea, they were still constellations, and his cultivation was much higher than Lu Ye's. Now, Lu Yi was already at the late stage of the Moonjade realm, while he was only at the early stage of the Moonjade realm. In the previous battle, he had personally experienced the difference in their strength. Master! Lu Ye's heart skipped a beat. Is that? Zhu Yuan pondered for a moment and said, "If it's you, it shouldn't be a problem. Come with me." As he spoke, he turned around and led the way. Lu Yi jumped onto his star boat. As if sensing that Lu Yi wanted to ask something, Zhu Yuan spoke first. "There's no need to ask. You'll know when we arrive." Lu Yi nodded silently. After more than 10 days, Zhu Yuan suddenly turned around and flew in the direction of a dead, desolate star. A moment later, Zhu Yuan and Lu Yi jumped off the star boat at a desolate star that was filled with sandstorms and devoid of life. Zhu Yuan put away his star boat and searched the surroundings. Finally, he found an entrance that led to the depths of the earth. The two of them entered one after another. Lu Ye's heart tightened when he sensed that there was a lingering smell of blood in this place. It took them about an hour to reach the deepest part of the earth. There was a natural karst cave here that was dotted with a few pearls. Gentle light filled the small space. A man was sitting cross-legged at the center of the karst cave. He looked like an ancient pine tree. Upon hearing the voice, the man opened his eyes slightly. The sharp light in his eyes was like lightning in the darkness, lighting up the surroundings for a moment. The man said slowly, looking at Lu Yi. "Why are you here?" Lu Yi hastily stepped forward and bowed solemnly. "Lu Yi greets Senior." The man in front of him was none other than Ma Bin. Zhu Yuan had left Fan Gu's team and returned alone. Obviously, he was here to meet Ma Bin. Zhu Yuan half knelt behind him and said, "I'm late. Please forgive me, master." Ma Bin didn't mind. He knew his subordinate's situation. On the surface, he was Yu Yao of Fan Gu Galaxy, and Ri was looking after him. Most of the time, he had no choice. Previously, Zhu Yuan had secretly sent him a message saying that Ri was the one who had attacked Jiao Xian's team. "Why are you together?" Ma Bin's body relaxed. However, he was tall and sturdy, and although he looked a little old, he still gave Lu Yi the feeling of a mountain that he couldn't look up at. He naturally knew that Lu Yi was in Azura realm. He had sensed him from afar. Zhu Yuan was also here. Theoretically, it was possible for them to meet, but the probability was too small. Obviously, something had happened that he didn't know about that had connected the two of them. "It's like this." Zhu Yuan briefly explained what had happened. Only then did Ma Bin understand. He looked at Lu Yi and nodded slightly. "Thank you for your concern." This junior of the 9 prefectures had obviously discovered Zhu Yuan and secretly followed him. Coincidentally, after Zhu Yuan left Fan Gu's team, he met Lu Yi on his way back. "Senior, how are your injuries?" Lu Yi asked with concern. Nan Lian said that Ma Bin's injuries weren't light, but she didn't know the details. Ma Bin's current condition didn't seem to be serious, but Lu Yi felt that his aura was a little weak. For a top expert of Ri Zhao to be weak, it was no small matter. "I won't die." Ma Bin laughed. "It's just a small injury." As soon as the words left his mouth, he spat out a mouthful of blood. His body swayed unsteadily. "Master." Zhu Yuan was shocked. He quickly rushed forward to support Ma Bin. Lu Ye's expression tightened. Only then did he notice that there was a lot of dried blood on the ground. Ma Bin's injuries seemed to be serious. He hurriedly rummaged through his storage ring and took out all the healing pills he had. He placed them in front of Ma Bin. "Senior, take a look and see if there's anything that can help you." All the healing pills he had on him were brought over from the 3-world island. They were refined from pill gourds and were of the highest quality. In terms of medicinal efficacy, they were many times better than those sold outside. Ma Bin took a deep breath and nodded. He picked up a jade bottle and checked it. After a while, he raised his eyebrows. "Good stuff." Unfortunately, it seemed to be useless. He picked up another bottle and was slightly surprised. He put it down and checked the next one. After a while, Ma Bin looked at Lu Yi in confusion. "Where did you get so many good things?" All these pills were of the highest quality. It seemed that this junior of his had been doing well in the 10,000 Elephant Sea. One should know that ordinary people didn't have such wealth. Even if they did, they wouldn't be able to buy so many high-quality pills without proper channels. End of chapter. Chapter 1966. "They're all refined at home," Lu Yi explained casually. "If Senior thinks they're useful, feel free to take them." Refined at home. A puzzled expression appeared on Ma Bin's face. Was there such an exceptional pill refinement master in the Kingdom of the 9 States? Last time he spoke with Lu Yi, he learned that the Kingdom of the 9 States had only recently become a large realm. Logically speaking, it would take at least tens of thousands of years for such a realm to develop. Yet, it was able to refine so many supreme-grade spirit pills all of a sudden. The rate of development was unimaginable. "Then I won't hold back," Ma Bin said as he retrieved a few jade bottles and swallowed some spirit pills. Only then did he turn toward Lu Yi with a profound expression. You received the inheritance of the Tao tree? As a former cultivator of the 9 states who had lived from that tumultuous era until now, he naturally knew of the Tao tree. The last time he saw Lu Yi, he didn't think much of it. But this time, after only a few decades, Lu Yi's cultivation had risen from the middle stage of the constellation realm to the late stage of the moon jade realm. This rate of cultivation was clearly abnormal. The only explanation was that he possessed an inheritance with immense potential. Back then, Zhao Nian's cultivation base had also risen at such a rapid rate. He had witnessed it with his own eyes, so he naturally had his own speculations. Lu Yi nodded. Indeed, Senior has sharp eyes. There was no need to hide this from Ma Bin. As expected, the inheritance of the Tao tree is still in the kingdom of the 9 states. Ma Bin sighed. Back then, Zhao Nian was the previous successor of the Tao tree. After his death, the inheritance of the Tao tree disappeared without a trace. Many people guessed that the inheritance had been left behind in the kingdom of the 9 states. Countless people searched for it with great effort, but to no avail. Who would have thought that after 10,000 years, it would be you who received the inheritance? His expression became serious as he spoke. However, you have to remember that the Tao tree can devour and refine all living things in this world, but there's one thing you can't refine. Cultivators. Lu Yi continued. Ma Bin's expression shifted. You've tried it? Lu Yi replied. Sunshine from the dwarf tribe once told me about this. He said that the Tao tree can't be refined, so if a cultivator is refined, bad things can happen. Ma Bin nodded. That's right. The calamity of the kingdom of the 9 states back then was largely due to this. You have to learn from it. I'll remember it. Lu Yi replied with a serious expression. In the Azura field, he had experienced this before. That feeling was truly unforgettable, and it left him with an endless aftertaste. But it also made him extremely vigilant. Cough, cough, cough. Ma Bin suddenly coughed again. He raised his hand to cover his mouth. When he released his hand, his palm was covered in dark blood. It was a ghastly sight. Lu Yi frowned. The supreme grade spirit pills that Ma Bin had just swallowed didn't seem to have any effect. He pondered for a moment and said, Senior, can you let me take a look at your injuries? Ma Bin smiled and said, You have medical skills? However, there's no need for that. I know my own injuries. Ordinary methods won't be able to heal them. Lu Yi said, I don't understand the methods of medical cultivators, but since Senior knows that I am the successor of the Tao tree, you should understand that I can refine some of the abnormalities in Senior's body. Perhaps it will make Senior feel better. Ma Bin asked curiously, the power of the Tao tree can still be used like this? He really did not know about this. Chao Nian had not shown this ability back then, so his understanding of the Tao tree was not much better than the little human tribe. Try it. Lu Yi looked at him. Then let's try it. Ma Bin was interested. He stretched out a large hand that was like a cattail leaf fan. Lu Yi sat cross-legged in front of him. He placed his hand on his wrist and activated the power of the talent tree. Ma Bin's expression could not help but change. He clearly sensed something. There was indeed an abnormality in his body. Previously, when he fought against 4 experts of the same level, he killed one of them and injured 3 of them. His battle record was impressive. However, his own injuries were not light. Several powerful waves of mana that did not belong to him were rampaging in his body, making it difficult for his injuries to heal. However, following Lu Yi's actions, those mana that invaded his body actually miraculously disappeared slowly. It was as if they were being refined by some power. Ma Bin's condition gradually showed signs of improvement. 2 hours later, Lu Yi withdrew his hand. Ma Bin silently sensed his body. He could not help but laugh and said, I feel much better now. However, Li did not look very happy. He only looked at Ma Bin and asked doubtfully, Senior, your injuries are a little strange. Why do I feel like you have injured your own foundation? If that was the case, then his efforts just now could not help Ma Bin much. He could only relieve his injuries slightly. If his foundation was not repaired, then Ma Bin would never be able to recover. In fact, his condition might even worsen over time. As soon as he said this, Zhu Yuan, who had been standing quietly behind Ma Bin, could not help but change his expression. Ma Bin's laughter slowly faded. He looked at Lu Yi and said, "The Nine States environment is indeed nourishing. After 10,000 years, a talent like you has appeared. This old man is very relieved." Lu Ye's expression was serious. "Senior, did you really injure your foundation?" However, Ma Bin did not think much of it. "It's not a big deal. I have taken my revenge over the years. I don't plan to do anything in the coming days. I just want to find a place to spend my old age in peace." Lu Yi felt sad. Although he was not at the level of the sun and did not know how famous the Azure Demon King Ma Bin was, he could tell from Nan Lian's words that Ma Bin was a well-known figure in this part of the starry sky. He repaid his debts of gratitude and enmity as he pleased, living a free and unfettered life. But now, because of him, he was defeated here. If Ma Bin hadn't noticed him when he was escaping that day, he definitely wouldn't have fought 1 against 4, and the current situation wouldn't have happened. It was undoubtedly sad that such a person had to come to a sad end in the end. "Is there no way to heal Senior's injury?" Lu Yi asked. Ma Bin slowly shook his head. Lu Yi was silent. However, Zhu Yuan suddenly said, "Actually, there is a way." Lu Yi looked up at him. Zhu Yuan glanced cautiously at Ma Bin. When he saw that Ma Bin had no intention of stopping him, he said, "Previously, when I was following Fangu's Rizhao, I heard him talk about his lord. Although he was not one of the 4 Rizhao who fought against his lord, he had some connections with the others. According to him, his lord's Dao foundation had been damaged. Unless he could find a spirit jade vein to treat his injuries, there was no chance for him to recover. The other Rizhao, led by Eternal Wind, had sent out a lot of messages, warning the top domains with spirit jade veins to be on high alert and not give his lord an opportunity to take advantage of." "Spirit jade mine?" Lu Ye's expression changed when he heard this. Ma Bin grinned. "My injury can only be slowly healed if I recuperate in a spirit jade mine. However, all the top realms with spirit jade mines in this world are top realms. In my current condition, if I dare to show my face in one of those top realms, I will be seeking my own death. So, little Lu, you don't have to worry about me. I have lived for so many years, and I am quite satisfied." Especially when he knew that the 9 states still existed and that there was a rising star like Lu Yi. Even if he died now, he would have no regrets. Lu Yi did not know why his foundation needed to be healed in a spirit jade mine, but, "Senior, I have a spirit jade mine," Lu Yi said excitedly. Finally, there was something he could help Ma Bin with. If it were any other method, he might not be able to do it. However, if it was a spirit jade mine, Ma Bin was stunned. "You have a spirit jade mine? Where did you get it?" The 9 states had just been promoted to a large realm not long ago. It was impossible for them to have a spirit jade mine. Moreover, spirit jade mines were extremely precious resources. He found it hard to believe that Yu Yao would tell him this. Lu Yi pondered for a moment, then said, "It's like this, Senior. I have a good relationship with the dwarf tribe. Previously, they asked me to search for the core of Mount Fengzuan in a starry sky wonder. I was lucky enough to succeed. After that, I brought the core of Mount Fengzuan back to the 9 states and placed it there. There is a spirit jade mine there. If Senior wants to use it, I can go back and give them a call. There shouldn't be a problem." He was now the master of Mount Fengzuan. The entire Mount Fengzuan belonged to him. Naturally, using the spirit jade mine would not be a problem. Even though Ma Bin had lived for over 10,000 years and was experienced and knowledgeable, he was still stunned when he heard Lu Ye's words. After a long while, he said, "You were actually able to find the lost core of Mount Fengzuan and even placed it near the 9 provinces? The dwarf tribe doesn't have any objections?" Mount Fengzuan was a famous starry sky treasure. For so many years, the various tribes of Mount Fengzuan had drifted in the starry sky. They had many members and formed their own faction. They had never had close relations with other tribes. How could they allow Lu Yi to place the core of their sect's supreme treasure so casually? He could not understand. The dwarf tribe didn't have any objections. The core had been found and placed there. The three tribes of Mount Fangzhen were being guided by the core and fused together. In a few years, the dwarf tribe would be able to regain the glory of their ancestors. Who would have any objections? Who would dare to have any objections? Ma Bin was momentarily dazed. All this time, he had treated Lu Yi as a junior of his own realm. After meeting him that year, Ma Bin had no intention of forming any sort of relationship with him. But now, it seemed that he had underestimated this junior. Speaking of which, how could the successor of the Dao tree be an ordinary person? For a moment, Ma Bin was truly moved. After all, this was indeed a method to heal injuries. But soon he slowly shook his head. Forget it. There are some things that you might not understand. Even if your relationship with the dwarf tribe is not bad, they might not agree to it when it comes to the spirit jade mine. To any tribe, the spirit jade mine is an extremely important resource. It is not only related to the production of spirit jade but also the future of the sunshine. After a pause, he said, "Moreover, I am in a lot of trouble. If the dwarf tribe knew of my identity, I'm afraid they would not accept me." Chapter 1967. Ma Bin didn't know the exact relationship between Lu Yi and the Minimen tribe. He only thought that the Minimen tribe wanted to get close to him because of his contribution in finding the core of Fangzhen Mountain. If that was all, it was obviously not enough. Moreover, as he said, he was in too much trouble. If he really went to the Minimen tribe, they would definitely not accept him. He might even implicate the 9 states. This was something he didn't want to see. Seeing that Lu Yi wanted to persuade him again, Ma Bin raised his hand and stopped him. "That's enough. Let's not talk about this anymore." "No, Senior," Lu Yi explained. "If Senior doesn't want to go back to the 9 states with me, I have another spirit jade mine that you can use to heal your injuries." Even though Ma Bin was experienced and knowledgeable, he couldn't help but twitch his eyes. He really wanted to ask Lu Yi if he knew what he was talking about. What did he mean by another spirit jade mine? In this vast universe, any spirit jade mine represented a top-tier realm. No one could humiliate it. It was normal for there to be a spirit jade mine at the core of Fangzhen Mountain. That was a starry sky treasure. Even if it was destroyed, it could still be maintained. Where did this second spirit jade mine come from? There were so many powerful realms in the universe, and so many Sunshine Realm cultivators begged for a spiritual jade mine, but they couldn't even get their hands on one. Why did Lu Yi and Yu Yao say that it was as simple as having 2 cucumbers at home? Lu Yi suddenly thought of the mermaid tribe. He rubbed his chin and said, "Actually, there is a third one, but it's not convenient there for now." When he came to the Azura field, Luan Xiaoa and Great Elder Yen Miao were preparing to break through to the Sunshine Realm. They were in seclusion at the Spirit Jade Mine under the sea. After such a long time, he didn't know if they had succeeded. Therefore, if Ma Bin wanted to heal his injuries, the Mermaid Tribe's Spirit Jade Mine was not suitable for him. Ma Bin was silent. He calmly raised his hand and touched Lu Ye's forehead. He felt that this junior of his, who was from the same world as him, had gone a little crazy. Lu Yi laughed. "Senior, I'm not joking. I've occupied a top-tier spiritual island in the Wanxiang Sea. There's a spirit jade mine on that island." Zhu Yuan, who was standing behind Ma Bin, was shocked. "Top-tier spiritual island?" Ma Bin was also shocked. "You've occupied a top-tier spiritual island?" "Yes." Lu Yi nodded. According to the current information of the 9 states, there are 3 major cultivation realms. Back then, the cultivators of the 3 realms joined forces to occupy a deserted island. As luck would have it, the deserted island gradually came to life and its quality improved step by step. Before I set off for the Azura field, that spiritual island was already a top-grade spiritual island. After listening to his explanation, Ma Bin was sure that Lu Yi was not joking with him. He was stunned for a moment. He had already accepted his fate. After all, the injury to his Taoist foundation could only be healed in the spirit jade vein. But in his current state, how could he have such an opportunity? Who would have thought that things would take such a turn? How did you manage to occupy a top-grade spiritual island? No one covets it? Ma Bin still could not understand how a random deserted island in a place like the Wanxiang Sea could slowly become a top-tier spiritual island. This luck was simply unbelievable. What he could not understand was how the galaxy where the 9 prefectures were located could occupy such a top-notch spiritual island. It would not be surprising if the top forces took a liking to it. Of course there are. During the rise of the three-world island, it went through 2 major battles. In these 2 battles, our island proved its strength. So even if someone covets it, no one dares to touch it for the time being. Lu Yi spoke casually, but Ma Bin could hear the bloodshed in his words. In a place like the Wanxiang Sea, one could only prove their strength if their fists were strong enough and their strength was strong enough. And if the other forces did not dare to touch it, then it must be extremely shocking. Only then would it be able to deter everyone. Ma Bin suddenly realized that he had always underestimated Lu Yi. I am in charge of the 3-world island now. The spirit jade vein is also ours. Senior, you don't have to worry. Lu Yi looked at Ma Bin sincerely. His injury was caused by him. If he could not solve it on his own side, then so be it. But since there was a way, then of course he would do his best. I understand. After quite a while, Ma Bin nodded and looked at Lu Yi with gratification. You're much more reliable than that brat Chow Nian. Since you have such intentions, then this old man will appreciate it. This Wanxiang Sea, this old man will make a trip there. He could accept his fate when there was no way to heal his injury, but now that there was a way, he would not give up. Lu Yi stood up gladly. There is no time to lose. Let us depart now. No hurry. Ma Bin raised his hand and gestured, saying, I will go to the Wanxiang Sea, but not with you. After all, his identity was very sensitive. Of course he could not go with Lu Yi. Otherwise, if something happened in the future, Lu Yi would be implicated. Lu Yi thought for a moment and understood what he meant. He said, Is there anything I can help with? Ma Bin smiled. I can go to the Wanxiang Sea whenever I want. Don't worry. You go back first. I will meet you there when the time comes. Lu Yi nodded. Then I will wait for your arrival. After bidding farewell to Ma Bin, Lu Yi left the desolate star and felt much more relaxed. Following the extremely weak guidance of the 7-colored divine sense, Lu Yi flew forward. A month later, somewhere in the starry sky, Lu Yi used the rainbow divine lotus to open a passage to the soul race's ancestral land and entered the ancestral land. As usual, he went to Li Shang's rainbow lotus land to see and the others. But when he arrived, he found that everyone was cultivating in seclusion. Even Hupo was nowhere to be seen. He was not disappointed. The soul race's environment was very suitable for it. It was good that the little girl was motivated. He turned around and went straight to the rainbow lotus land where the starry sky pond was. Su Yuan was diligently guarding this place. When he saw Lu Yi arrive, he only looked up at him and then pointed at the starry sky pond, indicating that he could do as he pleased. They were old acquaintances, so there was no need for formalities. Lu Yi was not in a hurry to go to the starry sky pond. Instead, he stepped forward and bowed. Elder, has the patriarch returned? He had some things to ask Hun Quebec. Su Yuan said that Hun Ke had something to do and left. He did not know if he had returned. Actually, Lu Yi wanted to ask when he was with Ma Bin. But considering that Ma Bin would go to the 10,000 Elephant Sea in the future, Lu Yi was not in a hurry to ask. Not yet, Su Yuan replied. Why is he not back? Lu Yi frowned. Su Yuan smiled. The patriarch is busy with something important. Why? Do you have any questions? It's about the 3 flowers. Lu Yi sighed. Compared to before, he had more questions this time. This was because he saw some unclear records in the Heaven Azura race's ocean tower. Su Yuan thought for a moment and said, Actually, it may not be a good thing to know some things in advance. Kid, it's best to take things one step at a time. When your cultivation reaches a certain level, many things will naturally become clear. What do you think? Lu Yi looked at him and suddenly realized. So, Elder, there are some things that you know but can't tell me? That's right. Su Yuan hurriedly waved his hand. I don't know much about the 3 flowers. After all, I've never seen it. There are no records of it in the soul race. I'm just a gatekeeper. How would I know so much? He changed the topic and continued, the only thing I know is that if you can successfully condense the 3 flowers, it will be very beneficial to your future. Isn't this nonsense? For a moment, Lu Yi couldn't tell if Su Yuan was hiding something. However, after thinking about it, Su Yuan was right. Some things would naturally become clear when one's cultivation reached a certain level. He did not need to pursue any secrets because it was meaningless even if he did. The foundation of everything in the cultivation world was one's own strength. As long as one's strength was strong enough, everything would be easy. His state of mind was suddenly enlightened. That's right. Regardless of what sect or abyss it was, there was only one thing that he needed to do now. That was to polish his source and strive to condense the flower of qi. Then he would advance to sunshine. It's good that you understand. Su Yuan looked at him with a smile. Thank you, Elder. Lu Yi bowed solemnly. Then he walked towards the starry sky pool. After locating the location of the 9 states, he entered it. An hour later, outside of the 9 states, Lu Yi steered the starry sky ship. His gaze reflected the familiar domain in the distance. He had earned a lot from this trip to the Azura field. Not to mention the large amount of treasures that could improve the quality of his source, he had even taken back the Azura field treasure that he had given up. It could be said that since ancient times, no one had earned more than him. Little Nine should be very happy to give it to him. Little Nine had been worried about the future of the cultivators of the 9 states. There were fewer and fewer corpses on the Wushuang continent. Sooner or later, they would all be killed. When that time came, how would the cultivators of the 9 states train themselves? He had already thought of opening up the True Lake and the Divine Ocean battlefield. However, if he really did that, the burden on him would not be small. Moreover, it would also deplete the resources of the 9 states to a certain extent. However, if he borrowed the help of the Azura field treasure, he would not have to worry about this at all. Little Nine would personally preside over it. He could create a training environment similar to the one in the Azura field, allowing the cultivators of the 9 states to train themselves. Then, they could obtain battle merits and the like to exchange for cultivation resources. This way, he could completely avoid the internal strife between the cultivators of the domain. Moreover, the Azura field treasure also recorded the shadows of countless cultivators from various eras. This way, the cultivators of the 9 states could directly compare the difference between themselves and other cultivators, and work even harder. Everything was progressing in a good direction. Lu Yi was looking forward to seeing Little Nine's expression when he gave the Azura field treasure to him. The mark on the back of his hand suddenly moved. There was no need to think, it was Little Nine contacting him. At this time, only Little Nine could sense his return. After a brief check, it was indeed Little Nine's message. However, after seeing the content, Lu Ye's expression suddenly became serious. In the next instant, he hurriedly stopped and even activated the spirit pattern to restrain his aura and conceal his existence. There was no other reason. Little Nine's message told him that at this moment, there was an unfamiliar sunshine in the 9 states that was searching for something. End of chapter. Chapter 1968. Although the Jade Snail Galaxy was located in a remote area, it did not mean that there were none. In the past, when the 9 regions was just a low-level domain, the Heaven's Fate Plate covered its existence. Therefore, even if there were any experts passing by, as long as they did not observe closely, they would not discover the 9 regions. As the 9 regions became a large domain, the Heaven's Fate Plate lost its concealment. Therefore, it was only a matter of time before experts discovered the 9 regions. All these years, Lu Yi had been urgently improving his cultivation because the overall strength of the 9 regions was too weak. If there was a disaster without a strong power, it would be impossible to resist. Lu Yi had long been mentally prepared that the 9 regions would be discovered by some experts, but he did not expect it to be so fast. According to the information sent by Xiao Jiao, this Rizhao came to the 9 regions not long ago. He came quietly and had been hiding himself. The entire 9 regions and even the Fangzuan mountain did not notice him at all. Only Xiao Jiao, who had been monitoring the 9 regions, discovered him immediately. This was obviously not right. If Ri Zhao was just passing by, he would not be so careful and deliberately hide himself. All kinds of signs indicated that this Ri Zhao seemed to have some unknown plans. Because of his hiding, the Fengsuan Mountain did not notice his arrival. After all, they were separated by a domain. Unless Ri Zhao of the Miniman clan deliberately investigated the 9 regions, it was impossible to discover his whereabouts. Similarly, because the Miniman clan's Ri Zhao were in the Fengsuan Mountain, this unfamiliar Ri Zhao did not discover the Miniman clan. From the outside, the Fengsuan Mountain looked like a small meteorite. This thing was everywhere in the starry sky. Who would have thought that the famous Fengsuan Mountain was now lying in the starry sky outside the 9 regions? The only one who knew about Ri Zhao's whereabouts was Little Nine, and Little Huanyang, who had been following Little Nine. What made Lu Yi feel fortunate was that since this Ri Zhao came, he had not done anything to harm the creatures of the 9 regions. He had been secretly investigating something. That's right, this guy should be from the Demon Clan. Little Nine sent another message. He used his power once and I felt a demon aura. Demon Clan's Ri Zhao. Inexplicably, the face of the black cloud demon venerable that he saw in the Wanxiang Sea appeared in Lu Ye's mind. So far, he had only met one Demon Clan's Ri Zhao. Of course, things could not be so coincidental that Black Cloud would come here from the Wanxiang Sea. This is his image. Little Nine sent another message over, but it was unknown when it had silently recorded the other party's appearance. Lu Yi took a closer look and frowned. Things seemed to be a bit too coincidental. Because this Ri Zhao of the Demon Clan who suddenly came to Jiuzhou was actually He Yun of the Zixuan Demon Star. 3 years ago, he had killed many Purple Jade Island's Yao cultivators in the 10,000 Elephant Sea. 7 or 8 of Yu Yao's Yao cultivators had died. After that, he had negotiated with He Yun and returned Purple Jade Island. But now, this guy had suddenly appeared in the 9 prefectures and was acting so sneakily. This was obviously not a coincidence. Lu Yi really wanted to know how He Yun found this place. He pondered for a moment and had some guesses in his heart. Moreover, the timing also matched. It seemed that He Yun had set off from the 10,000 Elephant Sea after the matter of Zixuan Island had been settled. According to Ri Zhao's speed, it would take him more than 3 years to arrive, which was considered slow. Why didn't you inform the little human tribe? Lu Yi asked. He was secretly glad that he came back in time. Little Nine had always been unwilling to have any contact with others, so far, the only one who knew of its existence besides Lu Yi was the original city lord of Immortal Essence City. However, if 9 prefectures really had some unresolvable crisis, it could still contact Ri Zhao of the little human tribe. At the very least, Lu Ye's Yu Yao blood warriors had stayed here, so Little Nine could let them pass the message. What if a fight breaks out? Little Nine was very worried. If Ri Zhao fights, 9 prefectures won't be able to withstand it. This was also true. Lu Yi had felt the aftermath of Ri Zhao's confrontation before. If they fought, the entire 9 prefectures would soon be torn apart. Therefore, before determining the purpose of He Yun, Little Nine couldn't rashly alarm Ri Zhao of the little human tribe. It only thought that the other party was just passing by and would soon leave. After all, it was only born from the combination of 9 prefectures' source and artifact spirit, so it didn't have many complicated thoughts. Otherwise, it would have already seen through He Yun's ill intentions. This person has a grudge with me. I'm afraid he came here for revenge. Lu Yi said. Ah. Little Nine was obviously surprised. Then what should we do? Lu Yi fell into deep thought. Since he was sure that it was He Yun, then he couldn't show up, otherwise he would definitely be beaten up. Or he could show up and then lure him out of 9 prefectures. But before that, he had to find a few Ri Zhao of the little human tribe to arrange an ambush and sneak attack him. But the other party was not a fool. Once he used 9 prefectures as a hostage, Lu Yi would not be able to lure him out. Instead, he would be controlled by him. How could he get rid of this guy without affecting 9 prefectures? No matter what the other party's purpose was, it must be with bad intentions. The Zixuan Demon Star had suffered such a great loss, and he was extorted by Lu Yi for 10 billion spirit jades. This was fine, but he had personally delivered Lionheart to Lu Yi and was killed. For a Rizhao, this was undoubtedly a great shame. He Yun would definitely not let it go. It might be possible to directly let the Rizhao of the little human tribe come out, but Lu Yi quickly thought of another safer possibility. Little 9, help me cover up. I want to enter 9 prefectures. Lu Yi transmitted, can you do it without being discovered? If it's just you alone, no problem. Little 9 replied. Very good. After a short while, with Little 9's help, Lu Yi quietly returned to 9 prefectures. Jade Blood Sect, on the green bamboo peak, Lu Ye's figure appeared. Little 9 also transformed into a rabbit and appeared in front of him. He looked left and right, then whispered, how did you become enemies with Rizhao? Lu Yi also lowered his voice. It's a long story. The situation over at 10,000 Elephant Sea is more complicated. Even if I told you, you wouldn't understand. Then what do we do now? Little 9 asked. Now, Lu Yi said, the corner of his eye twitching, why are we acting like thieves? The one with a guilty conscience should be the other party. Little 9 blinked, then suddenly reacted, oh right. Here's something good for you. Lu Yi took out the Azura Field treasure and handed it over. Little 9 curiously took it. What is this? Lu Yi immediately gave a simple explanation of the Azura Field treasure's power, and Little 9's rabbit eyes lit up. Logically speaking, the power of a treasure cannot be compared to a true starry sky treasure, but if you use it to create a scene that can support Rizhao's great battle, will there be any problems? In a true Azura Field there were countless scenes. Constellations, Yu Yao, and Rizhao were all training in peace and did not interfere with each other. A treasure definitely could not achieve this level, but creating a scene that could support Rizhao's great battle was possible. If it was possible, then there would be no need to worry about affecting 9 prefectures. I have to try to know. Little 9 replied. Familiarize yourself with it first, I'll go find some helpers. As Lu Yi spoke, under the cover of Little 9, he quietly left 9 prefectures and headed towards Minuscule Mountain. At the same time, in 9 prefectures, in front of Tian Continent's Guardian Hall, beside the withered reincarnation tree, black clouds stood tall. The Guardian Hall was not empty. There were several constellations that stayed behind, but these constellations turned a blind eye to Black Cloud's existence, as if they did not notice him at all. In fact, this was indeed the case. If Rizhao wanted to hide himself, the constellations would not be able to detect him. He Yun caressed the withered reincarnation tree clone with an excited expression on his face. He was sure that this realm was really 9 prefectures. To be honest, when he first saw this realm, he felt that it was somewhat familiar, as if he had seen it somewhere before. However, because there were many similar realms in this world, he did not dare to be sure. These days, he had been secretly investigating until he saw this reincarnation tree. The reason he came here was only for one purpose, and that was to avenge the dead demon race of Zixian. On the 10,000 Elephant Sea, he could not do anything to Lu Yi, but Lu Yi came from somewhere. He received some accurate information from Yuan Du and rushed here, finding Lu Ye's homeland. He was prepared to completely destroy all the living beings in this realm, to let that arrogant brat regret for the rest of his life, and to let him know the consequences of offending Zixian. However, after seeing 9 prefectures, he had doubts and did not act immediately. Instead, he secretly went to investigate. He knew about 9 prefectures because he had once participated in the encirclement of 9 prefectures. The lifespan of the demon race was generally much longer than that of the human race, so even after 10,000 years, he was still alive and well. Moreover, he had advanced from the constellation realm to the peak of the sunshine realm. The battle that year had caused the universe to collapse and the starry sky to tremble. After that, news of 9 prefectures being destroyed spread. However, only the cultivators who had participated in that battle knew that 9 prefectures had not been destroyed, but had suddenly disappeared at the last moment. Since then, there had been no news or traces of 9 prefectures. Many forces had maintained a search in the starry sky for nearly 1,000 years, but to no avail. In the end, they had no choice but to give up. Black Cloud had never thought that he would see 9 prefectures again after 10,000 years. There was a great opportunity hidden in this realm. Back then, the major forces had joined forces to besiege 9 prefectures. Although it was because the successor of the Tao tree had done something that angered both humans and gods, how could a war of such magnitude break out so casually without sufficient benefits? The inheritance of the Tao tree was the benefit that the various forces had fought over. This was a starry sky treasure, and the only one of its kind in the entire starry sky. If one was recognized by it, no matter how low one's cultivation was, it would recognize them as its master. In comparison, how difficult was it to subdue other starry sky treasures? So what if they were as strong as the Sunshine Realm? There were so many Sunshine Realm cultivators in the starry sky, but how many of them could control starry sky treasures? It was a pity that 9 prefectures had disappeared in that great battle, and so had the inheritance of the Tao tree. End of chapter. Chapter 1969. In front of the 9 Regions Guardian Hall, He Yun was overwhelmed with emotions. 10,000 years ago, the 9 Regions was the top domain in the entire starry sky. Its reputation was even stronger than the current Yellow Dragon domain. But today, 10,000 years later, this realm was just an ordinary large realm. He had been secretly investigating this realm recently and found that there were many constellations in this realm, but there wasn't even a Yu Yao, let alone a Rizhao domain. Although he didn't know why the 9 regions had become like this, it was obviously caused by the loss of too much of the domain's foundation. This had nothing to do with him. It was just a trip for revenge. Who would have thought that there would be an unexpected harvest? It was really a pleasant surprise. In a large domain with only constellations, the power of Rizhao was unimaginable. He thought about how to find clues about the inheritance of the Tao tree. In the end, he decided to show his unparalleled power and forcibly suppress this domain. As long as this domain was in his hands, he would be able to find the inheritance of the Tao tree sooner or later and take it for himself. This was the confidence of Rizhao. At the same time, in the immortal spirit peak of Mount Minuscule, Lu Yi rushed over and saw a surprised Su Yuqing. Lu Yi had clearly said that he was going to the Azura field to gain experience, but in just a few years, he had come back for some reason. But before she could ask, Chen Xianhai and Wu Qimo received Lu Ye's message and gathered here. The situation was urgent. Lu Yi immediately told the 3 of them about He Yun. Wu Qimo was furious. That demon must be blind to dare to cause trouble in front of me, Mount Minuscule. Junior brother, don't worry, I will go and get him out of the 9 regions. Saying so, he was about to leave. Mount Minuscule had a close relationship with Lu Yi. When Lu Yi was not in the 9 regions, they naturally had to protect the peace of the 9 regions. But because they had been staying inside Mount Minuscule, they didn't notice that Rizhao had sneaked into the 9 regions. This undoubtedly made him very angry. Senior brother Wu, don't be in such a hurry. Lu Yi hurriedly stopped him. He did come here to ask for help from the 3 Rizhao, but the war couldn't break out inside the 9 regions. At that moment, he explained his plan in detail. Su Yuqing and the other 2 nodded repeatedly as they listened and hurriedly got ready. A moment later, Lu Yi exited Fangsuan Mountain again and secretly got in touch with Little Nine. Whether or not his plan could be carried out would depend on the power of Little Nine and the Shura field. If Little Nine could make use of the treasure to create a scene for Nicho to fight, then there would be nothing to worry about. But if it couldn't, then he could only let Nicho of the little human tribe make a move. Very quickly he received Little Nine's reply. Lu Ye's heart calmed down. In front of the Guardian Hall, the Black Cloud had already made a decision. Just as he was about to urge his own sunshine power to show his existence, so as to deter the 9 regions' cultivators, his heart suddenly moved, and he looked up at the sky. His perception was extremely powerful, and he immediately sensed that there was a familiar aura rapidly approaching the 9 prefectures. He chuckled. Good. Blessings come in pairs. Good things come in pairs. He hadn't expected Lu Yi of the 3-World Island to appear at such a critical moment. It was true that his original purpose of coming here was only to destroy the 9 states and take revenge for Lu Ye's massacre of Zi Xian's monster cultivators, but this could only temporarily relieve the hatred in his heart and could not be regarded as true revenge at all. But Lu Yi had been staying in the 3-world island in the 10,000 Elephant Sea for a long time, so he didn't have any good ideas. Lu Ye's appearance at this time was undoubtedly a pleasant surprise. He had communicated with Lu Yi face to face in the past, so he naturally remembered his aura, so he could clearly judge that the one who came was the insufferably arrogant human boy in front of him. "Then I'll start with you." The black cloud snorted coldly, and his figure soared into the sky, heading straight towards Lu Yi. Near the 9 prefectures, Lu Yi had a leisurely expression, as if he had been traveling outside for a long time and finally remembered to go home. All of a sudden his body paused, and his expression changed drastically. He looked bewildered. He looked deeply into the depths of the 9 prefectures and seemed to have discovered something unbelievable. The black cloud demon venerable? Why are you here? The black cloud quickly approached Lu Yi and laughed. "Island Master Lu, I trust you have been well since we last met?" He had been suppressing his feelings for several years, and when he saw Lu Ye's panicked expression, he felt unprecedentedly happy, as if all the humiliation he had suffered before had been vented. Lu Ye's face was already pale, and he raised his hand and pointed at the void in front of him. As he pointed, a rotating vortex suddenly appeared in front of him. Like a frightened rabbit, Lu Yi dove headfirst into the vortex, and as his figure disappeared, the vortex began to rapidly close. The black cloud was stunned, and for a moment he didn't understand what kind of method this was, but no matter what kind of method it was just a way to escape. Seeing that the vortex was about to close and disappear, the black cloud's speed suddenly increased by a large margin, and in the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of the vortex, and rushed in without any hesitation. He, Ri Zhao, had personally taken action, and if he allowed Yu Yao to escape, it would really be a joke. Looking around, he found that his surroundings had become extremely strange. This place seemed like a starry sky, but it was also somewhat distorted, giving off a very fake feeling. Even the planets not far away were strangely shaped, with one of them looking like a sheet of paper. This was undoubtedly because Little Nine was not familiar with controlling attribute treasures. In such a short time, it had not been easy for it to create such an environment. Of course, this also had to do with the fact that this attribute treasure was not a true Starry Sky Supreme artifact. In the end, it was only an attribute treasure and could not display the power of a true Supreme artifact. How could the black cloud be in the mood to investigate this? Looking up, he saw Lu Yi standing not far away and smiled, a look of victory on his face as he said, "Run? Why aren't you running anymore?" But as soon as he said this, he suddenly felt that something was not quite right, because there was no trace of panic on Lu Ye's face. Instead, he stood there calmly as if he had a card up his sleeve. "You broke in on your own." Lu Yi looked at him with pity. To be honest, although Little Nine could barely create such a scene, if the black cloud was careful enough and did not break in, Little Nine really would not have been able to forcibly take him in. Unfortunately, Black Cloud had been blinded by hatred and had been led here by Lu Yi. Black Cloud finally realized that the situation was far from good. Although he did not know what Lu Yi had hidden up his sleeve, he was still on high alert. Not daring to hesitate, he urged his monster essence and reached out to grab Lu Yi. No matter what tricks the other party had, in the face of absolute strength, they were all futile. But as he reached out, a shocking sword light suddenly appeared out of thin air. This sword light was biting cold, and the power it contained caused Black Cloud's face to change color. "Ri Zhao." Black Cloud's eyes widened and he hurriedly pulled back his hand, but even so, much of his monster essence had been cut off. "Condense." A cold voice rang out, followed by a purple light that shot out from the side. Although Black Cloud sensed it, the purple light still brushed past his body, causing him to feel his entire body freeze. Another vigorous voice rang out, and another purple light flew over. When Black Cloud turned his head to look, he was shocked to see that the purple light had turned into a huge axe and was chopping down on his head. From this purple light, he felt a different Ri Zhao aura than before. His face turned pale and he wanted to dodge, but the chilling sword light appeared again. A moment later, Black Cloud stood in place with a face full of horror. He had suffered minor injuries from the sudden attack. At this moment, he looked at the three figures that appeared in front of him with incomparable surprise. 2 men and 1 woman, all of them exuding Rizhao's aura. Moreover, other than the brawny man in the middle, the other 2 did not seem to be ordinary Rizhao, especially the woman, and that purple light. You are from the hominid race? He-Yun finally reacted. Although he had never fought with Rizhao before, he had lived for so many years. After all, he had seen a lot of things. In this world, the only race that would use talismans to fight was the minions. But how could there be hominid race here, and 3 Rizhao cultivators at that? He had not seen any cultivators above the constellations in Jianghu before. Gentlemen, I am Zixuan Demon Star Black Cloud. I happened to pass by this place. Why did you attack me? Is there some misunderstanding? Black Cloud asked in a low voice. The hominid race of Mount Fengzhen was famous, but Zixuan Demon Star was not weak either. He could only hope that the 3 in front of him were afraid of Zixuan and would give each other some leeway. That was why he happily reported his name and origin. Moreover, he knew that the various tribes of Mount Fengzhen were drifting in the starry sky and would not easily make enemies with any strong cultivators. Because once they did, they were likely to be targeted. Unfortunately, to his disappointment, the 3 Rizhao cultivators only looked at him indifferently and did not seem to have any intention of responding to him. He abruptly turned to look at Lu Yi, who was watching the battle not far away, and his heart was filled with disbelief. Looking at the situation now, he was completely sure that the 3 Rizhao cultivators were helpers called by Lu Yi. He had heard that Lu Yi had a good relationship with the hominid race, and that there was a talisman shop opened by the hominid race on the 3-world island, but no one had said that they were so close. How could she summon 3 Rizhao cultivators so casually? The key was, how did she summon them? He did not understand. Let's do it, Lu Yi said softly. Dragon roar! Chen Xianhai shouted. His talisman sword roared like a dragon, and he charged toward Black Cloud with sword light. Su Yuqing formed a seal with one hand, her dignified face calm. Rays of purple light shot out, and Wu Qima's body was surrounded by purple light. For some reason, he had already transformed into a ferocious beast, wantonly attacking. If it were any other place, even if it was 3 against 1, if Black Cloud wanted to escape, the 3 Rizhao cultivators of the hominid race might not have a good way to deal with him, unless they were willing to exchange injury for injury. However, this was a scene created by Little Nine, and its ability was limited. This scene was not as vast as it seemed on the surface. The real space that could allow the Rizhao cultivators to fight was actually only that one area. The other areas were all fake and could not be entered. As a result, Black Cloud was in for a tragedy. End of chapter. Chapter 1970. The battle space was limited, and it was 1 against 3. Unless He-Yun had Ma Bin's strength, he was no match for them. How many Ma Bins could there be in this world? Therefore, the final result of this battle was already decided. Half a day later, He-Yun's huge monster body was in tatters, and his aura was extremely weak. He could die at any time. But in the end he was still alive. It was not that Su Yuqing and the others were merciful, but Lu Yi had specifically instructed them to do so. He had something to ask He-Yun. The 3 Rizhao of the hominid clan were standing guard. Even at this moment, the 3 of them did not relax their vigilance at all. They were afraid that He-Yun would suddenly fight to the death, which was possible. Lu Yi, on the other hand, kept a distance and shouted, "Demon Venerable, can you answer a few questions of mine?" He-Yun crawled on the ground, feeling contempt for Lu Yi's caution, but he had to admit that this kid was really cautious. He still had some strength left, which was not much of a threat to Rizhao, but if Lu Yi got close enough, he might be able to drag the other party down with him. Who knew that this kid was so cautious? Winner takes all. If you want to kill me, just kill me. What's the point of talking nonsense? He-Yun snorted coldly. Even at this moment, he had no intention of showing any weakness. Lu Yi nodded. I'll definitely kill you, but how I'll kill you depends on Demon Venerable. He Yun's voice was cold. What do you mean? Lu Yi said, I mean if Demon Venerable is willing to cooperate, then I can give Demon Venerable a quick death. What if I don't cooperate? Ha! Lu Yi laughed and didn't explain anything. However, that smile made it clear that nothing good was going to happen. He Yun's expression changed, and his huge monster body quickly shrank back into his human form. With a look of waning interest, he said, Ask away. Retracting his monster body undoubtedly meant that he had given up his original plan. For him, death was not scary, but some torture methods were scary. Although the hominid clan was not an evil race, Rizhao was not necessarily not proficient in these methods. Not to mention, He Yun also knew that the hominid clan had a special talisman for torturing people. Once hit, it would really be better than death. Now, he only wanted a quick death. Seeing this, Lu Yi asked, How did you find this place? Who gave you the route? Traveling from the Myriad Sea to the 9 provinces was not an easy task. Back then, Lu Yi only managed to find a specific route because of the guidance of the reincarnation tree. Along the way, he overcame numerous obstacles and finally returned to the 9 provinces. Therefore, it was definitely not a coincidence that He Yun was able to find his way here. Someone must have instructed him. Don't you know who your enemy is? He Yun asked with a mocking expression. Lu Yi blinked. Seems like the Demon Venerable isn't very convinced. I'll have to trouble Senior Martial Brother Wu to suppress the Demon Venerable's temper. Wu Qima stepped forward. No problem. He Yun's expression changed. No need. He then looked at Lu Yi and said, Yuan Du gave me a route, I followed it and found my way here. As expected, it was this old man. How did Yuan Du know the route from the Wanxiang Sea to here? Lu Yi asked again. He Yun sneered and instinctively wanted to mock him. However, he quickly reacted and said, Didn't many people go missing from your 3-world island? Most of them were secretly captured by Yuan Du and he searched their souls. What information can't he get? I knew it. Lu Yi had already guessed it, but He Yun's words confirmed it. Some cultivators from the 3-world island did go missing, but it was not a large number. This was very normal. Before the battle with Zi Xian broke out, Wan Xiao especially reported this to him. They were all untraceable cases. In such a chaotic place like the Wanxiang Sea, there were many conflicts between cultivators. Killing or being killed happened all the time. Not to mention the 3-world island, even cultivators from famous big forces went missing or died mysteriously. Therefore, Lu Yi did not take it seriously at that time. Only Wei Pa ended up triggering the battle between the 3-world island and Zixian. However, now it seemed that some of the missing cultivators of the 3-world island were killed by Yuan Du. He used the soul-searching technique and found the route from the memories of the cultivators of the 3-world island. So you followed the route and came all the way here to avenge Zixian? Lu Yi asked. That's right. You killed so many of Zixian's cultivators. It's not too much for me to kill the people of your homeland, right? Lu Yi did not comment. He Yun suddenly became angry. Yuan Du, that bastard, can't do anything right. His soul-searching technique is a pile of dog shit. You have 3 great sunshine guarding this realm, but he didn't know. It's funny that he wanted to kill with a borrowed knife. Lu Yi blinked and looked at He Yun sympathetically. It would be strange if Yuan Du knew. When Lu Yi brought the cultivators of the 9 states to the Wanxiang Sea, there was no Mount Fangzun here, and there was no sunshine. Therefore, the information Yuan Du obtained through the soul-searching technique was already outdated. He thought this was just an ordinary large realm and secretly guided He Yun to take revenge. In the end, He Yun foolishly came and rushed into a tiger's den. Now, his life and death were no longer in his own hands. Also, the route he gave was actually incomplete. I wasted a lot of time to find the correct route. He Yun's face was full of anger. He was obviously very dissatisfied with Yuan Du. No wonder this guy, as a sunshine, took several years to travel from the Wanxiang Sea to the 9 states. It turned out that this was the reason. However, Yuan Du couldn't be blamed because the soul-searching technique was extremely evil. Once it was used, it would cause great damage to the soul of the subject. Therefore, the information obtained through the soul-searching technique was limited and most of it was incomplete. Besides guiding you here, what else did he say to you? Lu Yi asked. The 9 states involved a lot. Since Yuan Du had soul-searched the cultivators of the three-world island, he might not know the real name of the 9 states. However, he still sent He Yun here. This undoubtedly showed that even if Yuan Du knew about the 9 states, he didn't think much about it. There was another point. The cultivators of the three-world island all knew about the mermaid clan and the mermaid territory under the sea. Did Yuan Du know? Even if he didn't know everything, it was very likely that he knew something about it. It was just that he kept it a secret, so no one knew what his intention was. However, Lu Yi was not too worried about the mermaid clan. Even if Yuan Du knew, he couldn't do anything about it. He didn't say anything. He Yun assumed a cross-legged sitting posture and tried his best to make himself more comfortable. He lowered his head and said, "You've offended him before, and you also have enmity with me, Zixian. It's not easy for him to leave the 10,000 Elephant Sea. That's why he enticed me to come here. As long as I succeed here, he'll be much happier on his side." That's not right. Lu Yi stared at him deeply. I heard that you've been in this world for a while. What are you secretly looking for? He Yun seemed to be very cooperative, but Lu Yi could feel that this guy was dishonest. There were some things he hadn't said yet. He Yun's expression didn't change. I'm new here and just being careful. What can I be looking for? If I'm looking for something, I'm looking for someone related to you. Lu Yi looked at him quietly for a moment, then asked leisurely, have you heard of the Dao tree? He Yun's expression still didn't change. He didn't reveal any flaws. But no flaws was the biggest flaw. He was a demon with a long lifespan. How could he not know about the Dao tree? If He Yun was in good condition, he might be able to disguise himself more reasonably. But now he was seriously injured and on the verge of death. He couldn't make the most perfect disguise. Lu Yi already had the answer in her heart. She asked, does Yuan Du know about the 9 regions and the Dao tree? He Yun looked up at Lu Yi and said, Yuan Du is very strange. Why do you claim to be the 9 heavens when you're obviously the 9 regions? But that's it. If he knew that this 9 regions was the famous 9 regions of the past, he wouldn't have let me come. He would have come in person. It was a reasonable explanation. But he doesn't understand for the time being, but it doesn't mean that he won't understand for the rest of his life. If it's related to the Dao tree, even if there's the slightest possibility, he should come to investigate carefully. Lu Yi said happily, then you must welcome him when the time comes. He Yun's eyes twitched. He could almost foresee what would happen to Yuan Du if he came to the 9 regions. He would definitely be as miserable as he was now. Is there anything else you want to ask? He Yun looked at Lu Yi. Lu Yi shook her head slowly. There was nothing else she wanted to ask. She had already figured out everything she needed to know. She turned to Chen Xianhai. I'll have to trouble senior brother to give the demon venerable a quick death. Just as she finished speaking, a sword light flashed. When Lu Yi turned to look, he found that He Yun's head had been separated from his body. His vitality was quickly dissipating. Little 9, let us out. Lu Yi looked up and shouted. Then she ordered, also maintain this scene for the time being. Only remove it after He Yun is completely dead. A vortex slowly appeared. Lu Yi and the 3 little humans left in the sunshine. Somewhere in the starry sky, a huge planet stretched across. Outside this planet was a ring of nebula. Looking from afar, under the light of the sun, this nebula actually showed a mysterious purple light. The name of purple jade came from this, and it was famous in the starry sky. On the demon planet, countless demon clans lived and bred. Powerhouses were as common as clouds. In the entire purple jade demon planet, there were 5 greater demon venerables and 18 lesser demon venerables. A total of 23 demon venerables level powerhouses guarded various parts of the realm. Because of this, the huge purple jade demon planet was divided into 23 regions, each belonging to a demon venerable. The greater and lesser demon venerables were all sunshine powerhouses. 23 sunshine powerhouses in one realm showed the strong foundation of purple jade, and this did not include the sunshine powerhouses in other realms in the galaxy. At this moment, in the territory of the demon venerable, Heiyun Peak, a roar came from the main hall. The entire spirit peak was trembling. Who killed my doppelganger? In the main hall, the demon venerable's face was full of anger. It should be known that the dead doppelganger was not an ordinary doppelganger. He had spent 3,000 years to prepare for the impending catastrophe. It was no longer a doppelganger, but a Dharma body. Although the Dharma body was not as strong as his original body, it was still in the sunshine realm. It was only slightly weaker than his original body. Now that it was suddenly dead, his 3,000 years of preparation had gone down the drain. How could he not be angry? End of chapter. That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Immortal Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.